And here we go. We are ready for the festivities. Oh, I am. I am fucking ready. Look at that anamorphic mine. Hit that. Oh, let me hit it again. Boom! Anamorphic Mind was the first person that ever hit a super chat in the Jose JG Boom channel. Big shout out to Anamorphic Mind 666. Oh, fuck yeah. Let's do it. Festivities time. Boom.
Are you ready? Call your mama, call your papa, call your friends. The festivities are about to begin. Boom!
Oh, to the hills, to the yeah. I think right here and right now in the Jose JG Boom channel. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming in. Please, please, please hit that like or dislike under this video. Support via PayPal. Share the show, but you know what is very important and very pertinent now? That we got a super chat running now. There's a super chat feature somewhere underneath the chat box with a $sign. Super chat is on. Hit us up with any question, comments, or concerns, or just to support the channel and support me that I am really behind. Shout out to the frog with a lazy eye. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? We got Froggy with us in here, and we have Squeaky Earth. Can we put the frog in the Squeaky Earth? Yes, we can, and we are going to. Here we go. Hold on. We're working on it. Remember, guys, Frog needs to eat. Frog likes energy drinks too. So if Frog wants it, I think you guys can help it using the super chat. There's Frog in the earth. Here we go. Let's try this. Oh, you see? That's a hell of a ride with the Squeaky Earth and the frog. That's a hell of a ride. Shout out to the frog. But wait. The fuck are you doing there, man? You abandoned me? You abandoned your son? Dude, we're married. Because you got a lazy eye and you look homeless, it doesn't mean that you can come in and hang out. Doesn't mean that you can come in and hang out in the Squeaky Earth, just having a ride and the time of your life. You know what? I'm going with you. So, hello, I am new. This is Mama Frog. This is Baby Frog, and that's the husband right there. I don't know what's going on here, but she's going in the Squeaky Earth too. She's going in. So many frogs, so many frogs. There you go. Frog Earth. Now, we got more food, more mouses to feed. So if you would like to support the frog family, please don't hesitate on hitting me up on PayPal or Super Chat because the frogs needs to eat. This one might need something like professional done because he's got a lazy eye. Let's see how it works with the two frogs. Froggy Earth. Hey, yeah, and it sounds magnificent. It sounds fucking awesome. Shout out to the Froggy Earth. Oh, we got super chats incoming. Dora Unku with 2 euros. Nice, Dora. Nice. And we have Tommy Grumble with 5 Nokias. 55 Nokias. Fucking A. 55 Nokias, I'll be out driving. Don't let anyone say something stupid. So I crash. Thank you so much, and big shout out to Marcus Dresden, Angry Dog, Citizen 9, Farmer's Boy, Dora Unku, Sean Hawkins, Ortiz Live, Charlie Welch, Fred Bailey, John Mongoose, Anamorphic Mind, Steve, and Peter G. Thank you very much for being here. This is, this is madness. It went from Squeaky Earth to Froggy Earth. Look at Baby Frog chilling in there. He can fall. I'm just going to leave it there, so I don't want to mess too much with it. Thank you very much for everybody watching. Remember, like, dislike, support, super chat, PayPal, and shout out to and join Discord, The Daily Boom, Farmer's Boy, Steve Rodino, and the other Merrill in the house. Guys, I just want your thoughts. We just got a new family members, the Frog family.
Hashtag free the frogs.
Whee!
Hashtag pour oil on the frogs.
Oh, no, you did.
No, because that might get rid of the squeak.
No, guys, still didn't. Right now, I couldn't do the squeak because there's a leg hanging in here and it can be ripped. Whoa!
Hey.
The biggest super chat, the $20 by Earth is Life. Fuck yeah, Earth is Life. Thank you so much. Hey, I think the super chat is working now. Look at that. Fucking A. Remembering good old times. Thank you so much for your support, brother. Hell yeah. Woo! But I think a very important super chat is the first one, which was 666 by Anamorphic Mind. That's crazy. Yeah. Thank you, man. Earth is Live. He had a thing going, a premiere going on over there on his channel. I shared the show. I just canceled, the sharing, but I think we got a little bit of traffic going over there with my sharing the show. That was Earth is Live with SE Montreal talking about the moon and lunar eclipses.
Yes, it was painful, to be honest.
Do we have any answers of how it works on a flat Earth?
No, but I heard somebody mention unicorn Earth, unicorn model. Somebody say.
I'm confused. Does that have to do with flat Earth?
Well, no, but they say it doesn't only works on a globe. They say because I can make it work in a unicorn Earth. It's unicorn magic in a unicorn shaped Earth. I can give you the math. I can give you everything on how it works. But unfortunately, he was unable to provide any of that he claimed he could. You know what I mean? He said, I could provide you all the math, the numbers, and the models, but I'm not gonna. You know what I mean?
It's how it always works.
Truth Nurse with a €2 super chat, and he got snakes and flies, worms, snake flies, worms for the froggies. Oh, hell yeah. Truth Nurse, thank you, brother. Boom.
Yeah, I think the unicorn argument was somebody trying to say that just because you can model something, that doesn't mean it's true. Because he said, I could model a unicorn or a unicorn Earth. Well, go on then. And does it match what we see? So I think because Earth is Life could model this solar eclipse, and it just happened to be the solar eclipse that SE had filmed himself, that just because he could model it didn't mean to say it was real. Well, of course it's not real, it's a model. But if you can model something and it matches reality, then your model's accurate. And somehow unicorns came into it.
Yeah, I know. It's a silly argument. I tell you where they got that from, the argument. One of the first people that mentioned it. But first, big shout out to Judy Bassett with €5 super chat. Judy Bassett, thank you so much for the support. Yeah, there are 3 frogs. There's Mama Frog, Papa Frog, and Baby Frog right here. Jeran from Jeranism, I think, is the first one to mention that type of argument. Yeah, he said, well, It's like if I say I have a plan, I want to build like a Disney World resort with all kinds of of toys and gamings and machines and all these roller coasters and all this shit. And I got the plans, I got the numbers, I got the math, I got the visuals, I got the blueprints, I got everything, and I got all that in paper. It works. It works perfectly, but it just doesn't exist. It's just not built. There's nothing. It's not even a place that I can build that. But I got all the papers, I got all the plans, and it all makes sense and it all adds up. That's where I think most of the flat earthers got the argument from. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's stupid because if you look at a car manufacturer, and I brought this up yesterday, and they model and build all their cars and all their information they have in model format prior to making the car. And then when they make the car, if you look at the models, it will match.
Mm.
I do exactly the same thing if I'm designing a heating system for a building. I model it in AutoCAD first. I actually draw it in what's called model space. And then once everything's done, you print those drawings off and you give them to some people, and they actually make it. And it hopefully it matches what I modelled.
Well, nowadays you could give them a 3D blueprint for a 3D printer, and they could print it out, and the model you develop and design the blueprints for will actually work in the 3D printer.
Yeah.
Dangling little frog feet.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, they're not the frog testicles. This is the mom. She doesn't have testicles. This is the little frog feet. Okay.
So shouldn't that be a tadpole?
A tadpole. I just call them all frogs. Anything green with big eyes and goes rubber. They're all frogs. That's all I know about frogs.
No worries.
Shout out to my homeboy Jumungus. Yes, it's me. And yes, I haven't repeated anything yet today that I didn't say yesterday.
Give him time.
Shout out to Jumungus, man.
Hey, Jumungus, Farmer's Boy's here too. Do you want to hear him?
No, he doesn't. But tough shit.
Do you guys share the show? I don't know. I have a feeling that somebody is going to join and is going to bring all kinds of shit show on. I hope we don't have a shit show, but we might have somebody that join that might bring that wants to bring a shit show. Even though I'm going to probably stop it.
Can you feel it in your waters or something?
I feel it, man. I feel it.
Yeah.
The frog is shaking over here. Oh, I can't squeak it. The leg gets caught.
It still squeaks.
It still squeaks. Yeah, you just give it a little bit. There you go. Nice.
Nice.
And I repeat, this is not frog's testicles. It's the froggy legs. Froggy is right here. I gotta give them names. So if you guys wanna give me some names, we'll entertain it. We got the lazy-eyed frog. We got mama frog and baby frog.
No, I have no suggestions at the moment.
Yeah, no, at the moment. Yeah, it's not mandatory. It's not an emergency. But along the day, if somebody's listening to this or listening to this already recorded, we are looking for names on the dogs. So your message will be more entertaining and 100% focused on if you hit the super chat or PayPal. And then if you tag me, I will also read your comments and I'll put it on a list in here and maybe we'll do a little raffle and we'll get the names, Oh, wait, Citizen 9 got a first one, the first request. Brian, and Brian. Ooh, I don't know about that.
And that's not the same person.
No, they are different. This is Brian, this is Brian, this is Brian. For right now, you know what? That's their nicknames. Because he's the first one. Yeah.
All right. It's a work in progress.
Yeah. Shout out to Black Sabbath. What's up? I'm new. Whoa, Mr. My Lord, with a $4.99 super chat. I wanted your cherry. Well, Anamorphic Mind popped the cherry with a 66 earlier, but thank you for the 4.99, Mr. Malort. I like your icon on your. I like the icon. The how do you call it? The avatar on your fucking name. The YouTube avatar
Yes.
that you use over here. I like that. The
Well-
mono. You use a specific word, Leo, like a monocore or monocre or something. What was the word you used?
Moniker? I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
A moniker is a nickname.
When you had my face used on your profile, you say, "Oh, I got Jose's moniker" or something like that. I don't know. I don't know. Big Brian goes, "Mobbit, mobbit, mobbit, mobbit." That's beautiful, Citizen 9. Thank you. That's why they're Brian's. Mobbit, mobbit.
How many frogs fit in Squeaky Earth?
Oh, lots of them, man. They can squeeze with each other. Yeah. They can squeak. I can squeak many frogs in Squeaky Earth. Squeeze. I don't know. Well, Komar is here. Komar, if you want to take the lead, because we're still trying to figure out what the main topic is going to be here today. Squeako key. Yesterday, for some reason, I was recommended a live stream, and this guy had 150 people watching, and I clicked on it, and he had only like 350 subscribers, 150 people watching,
Wow.
and it was the guy like a lot of crazy hair, baldish kind of crazy hair, crazy beard, a little sweaty, big belly, and he was just sitting there looking at the stream, and like babbling the comments in the comment section, and like singing low, like like an Arwin type of thing, bro. He had a lot of people watching. I say, what the fuck am I watching? I say, hello, I'm new. What the fuck am I watching? And he read it like, hello, Jose, say hello, I'm new. What the fuck am I watching? I don't know myself, man. And he just kept it like, like I said, like I couldn't stop watching it. I watched it for like half an hour. There was so many trolls in the chat box, like, dude, you're so, like you're gone. You smoke the whole like pot store, and you got any Bud Lights, you got any Heinekens, you've been drinking beer, some random comments. I don't know what the fuck, but I just like shut it down, Jose. I just exited and left. I couldn't stay. Weird. One of those
He had
strange
150
like
people
hypnotism.
watching it.
He had 150 people watching with 300 subscribers. I
Wow.
was hypnotized by watching that asshole doing nothing there, like a big fat sweaty Arwin.
Ew. And you got 150 odd people watching it. That's
Yeah.
weird.
I know.
Maybe they'd all been hypnotized too. Maybe it was just like, why am I watching this? Why can't I stop watching this guy? Isn't that weird?
There's a recommendation. The king of the Plasma Slaker Gene Demons. That's a long
Oh.
username.
God.
He's a
No.
lemon bird.
I promise that was not me.
I hope not, man. I don't know, but I heard three. I heard a summon going on. Komar say, just listening. Give me a like on YouTube. That's good, man. Appreciate it.
Did anyone have a chance to watch MC Tunes stream last night?
I watched a little bit in the beginning, a little bit in the middle, and a little bit at the end. I think I made a quick stop on the stream at the end. No MC2, no. I did the Fight the Flatter thing that was going on. MC2, and I watched a little bit, but maybe like 5 minutes.
That guy in his video that he showed that eats those salt packets, the silica salt packets, and then he says the gin demons are coming out of his nose. That's where I got my name from.
Yeah. And yes, that guy in the stream was wearing a shirt. I know. I say if he didn't have a shirt and he could share all that very hairy chest, that would be something different,
Gary's here.
What up? Maybe he had the filter on that when a person is summoned, he hear his name.
Gary.
Yeah.
I was already listening.
What's up, man?
Working, taking a little break to eat some lunch.
Do you super chat Gary other channels to troll him like with $1 or $2 sometimes? Have you done it?
No, I don't give anybody any money on either side.
What?
I don't give any money to anybody on either side.
Damn, it's crazy. I think I like a handful of times in my earlier days. I did maybe like a $5, like $5 and like $2. I kidding. I can't afford it anymore.
What are you doing over there?
Washing dishes.
Oh no, actually, I was dumping some chicken and rice soup into a bowl from a hot thermos.
It's like hurting my ears worse than I hurt the ears of people
Well,
with my own life.
There's also stanchions rattling around the cows. I'll turn my thing on mute.
Now we have the real Lemon Bird, who he was summoned and he just showed up. What's that?
Somebody said my name 3 times. I was just chilling in the infernal dimensions. And
say my name, say my name. Yeah.
It was Jose that said it.
Oh, it was you? Ah, so
Jose.
you disturbed my slumber.
Sorry. Lemon Bird, what do you think? Do you see my camera? What do you think about my new friends? The Squeaky Earth is not alone. It's not empty anymore. We have 3 frogs. We got a frog with a lazy eye. We got the wife, Mama Frog, Papa Frog, Mama Frog, and Baby Frog is here too.
Hey, how nice? You doing, frogs?
Isn't that cool? Isn't that something?
That's so nice. How y'all doing?
Oh, yeah, we good.
The Earth is flat too.
We good. Mob it. They say mob it. I don't know why.
Guess what? We got Farmer's Boy to deafen and mute himself.
Hey, Farmer's Boy, how you doing?
He can't hear you.
And
he deafened and muted himself.
Lemon Bird, what do you think about this analogy? Because somebody tried to be the opposite view, right? And they said like, there's no other way that a lunar eclipse work besides the way it works on a globe Earth, right? They say, I can show you a model, graph. I can show you graphics. I can show you a 3D model. I can show you videos. I can show you everything, and everything adds with a globe. Another guy came in. They said like, "But I can say it works like if the Earth was a unicorn-shaped Earth." And I can do the math. I can show you the math. I can show you a map of the unicorn Earth, and it will work. Even though that person didn't show anything, you think it's a fair analogy to say, I just want to rebut what you say with just making something up without presenting evidence? Or is it, if you want to make something up or bring an alternative, is it fair to present a little evidence for it, right?
Well, do we see these planets orbiting around the sun, like where we're taking a bird's eye view from outside the solar system and seeing this happen? No. We model it out to try to explain what we see as best as possible and as logically as possible. Whenever you talk about, an effect or a model that's trying to model the effects on our vision, keep in mind that an effect can have several causes, and by extension, several models that model the same thing. So if they're trying to say unicorn Earth, I could just model anything and just present it to you as, fact or something. I mean, people wouldn't accept that unicorns help explain anything. Even when you try to answer a question of why we see the sun, moon, and stars of the Earth a certain way with a model, we still have a range of acceptable answers that we accept and others that we reject. So strangely, in a way, even when you ask a question, within the question is some range of answers that you would normally accept and or reject for various grounds, even when it comes to making a model. So unicorn Earth would just be absurd because people don't see the point of the Earth. They don't see the unicorn hair of the Earth. I mean, the unicorn would need to move. It would need to be vital. People think of unicorns as being living creatures. Most of the people think that the Earth is not living. And so it's not in the range of acceptable answers at that point.
Thank you guys for not going crazy and interrupting and shit like that. Who wants to? If anybody want to address what Lemon said, is that fair? Does it make sense to you? Anybody?
Unicorn Earth? Nah. But I want to apologize to Steve Areno for calling out the globe hypocrisy yesterday. Basically implying that flags are saying it looks flat, it is flat, when globers are kind of doing something similar by saying it looks obstructed, therefore, by logical extension, it is globe obstructed. I think we just have to point out, times when we're just not quite getting, a key point. And, hypocrisy in either side just needs to be pointed out so that we finally get to some level of resolution.
I took it a little harsh because it was offensive to me when somebody of a rebut or somebody giving advice, health, medical advice, or personal advice to anybody, or trying to say something that is personal, that I take offense with that. That's a big no-no. I don't appreciate that at all. That's why I took offense with that.
Well,
Hey,
it helped.
Jose.
Oh, no, you're saying, Mr. Leo?
Jose, I just want to say, me and one of your frogs have something in common. But anyways, go ahead.
Good. See, this is good. We're in the download show, earlier show, and we have actually a very evenly grouping here because Brian Leake is in the house. Komar, Farmer's Boy, Gary Webenga, Larry, 56 is Lemonbird, and Steve Rorino and Leal in the house. You see, it's very even, so we can have a nice conversation. If let's try to make it an open, not too much of a focus one-on-one thing. We can exchange ideas. Everybody can.
Well, we got to compare models. When the heliocentric eclipse happens, like with the lunar eclipse, they're basically saying that the sun, earth, and moon are lined up like billiard balls, and that the shadow of the earth falls on the moon to darken it. The only problem with that model is you can't see the sun and the moon above the horizon. So the globers try to explain that away by saying somehow the image of the moon or whatever appears to refract above the earth into the sky. But seeing the moon and the sun above the horizon for a lunar eclipse, in particular a Selenelian lunar eclipse, is very problematic for their model. And just trying to pad it with refraction from a flat Earth perspective is just unacceptable. It would just be easier to say that something else is eclipsing the sun and the moon.
Hello! You gonna answer that door?
Hold on. I'll be back.
Larry is a little bit surprised. He say, Flat Earth has a model. That's kind of a new one to you.
Here, time and time again, they don't have a map, they don't have a model. We don't know what it is. We only know what it's not. So, no, he says many models can describe the same phenomenon. Well, when you look into them, you'll find 99% of them are eliminated. And the fact that all vertical lines are radial, South Pole exists, sunrise, sunset, eclipses, tides. Ignore it.
Where's the South Pole?
Take any one of them, but what you have to do is take all of them. You take all of them, they're done. And so,
Larry, where's the South Pole at? You just mentioned the South Pole. Where's the South Pole at?
South of the North Pole.
Yeah, you see, that's exactly my point. The South Pole is not up for grabs. It's not open for debate. It's not open for options. It's the planet, part of the planet. If you want to deny that amount of reality, then there's no point in engagement.
Where is the South Pole?
Exactly where you think it is. 90 degrees south, 4,000 miles south of the equator, due south, middle of the Antarctic continent.
Well, when I look it up, it tells me that it's west of Antarctica continent, off in the Indian Ocean. So, what's up with that?
Oh,
And it's moving. Like they say, it's moving also.
did you look up magnetic pole?
Sounds like it.
Because you know the magnetic pole is just a geological feature that's not what we're talking about. But I know you can't keep those things separate in your brain.
So, to your map, your model, the South Pole is not where the compass is pointing south. It's just it's a spot that's directly underneath the void in the south. So, can you show me a picture directly underneath that void in the south?
It's not a void. It's an entire fucking continent.
Sigma Octantis. I mean, I'm talking about the void that everything rotates around in the south. Can you show me anything even 85 degrees? Can you show me a picture? I've been asking for it for about 4 years now.
It's not a
void,
and you can take a trip there. If you had the money, you could go there.
There are star trails.
They don't even get within 85 degrees. So I'm asking for something, any picture, of the rotation within 5 degrees of overhead.
Oh, now we want the rotation as well. Bloody hell, you don't want much, do you?
There are
Well,
star
from
trails.
this, we do trust what we've been told, and we think
No,
that
you
we
don't.
could go there and take a picture overhead of the stars rotating overhead. But I guess flatties are challenging that by saying it's curve, warping, distorting optics. They're not really as far south as they say, or something else is going on with what's in the sky.
We're just talking shit.
Just something I've been
We
trying to
need
get
to
for
see if
4
we can
years
actually
without.
verify this narrative, gentlemen and ladies. Brian Leake.
May I please point something else? The simplest model that explains both the South and North Pole, Coriolis effect, the rotation of the Earth, the lunar and solar eclipses, sunrise and sunset, all on one simple model, until someone can come up with a model that represents all those phenomena on one model, the best model for that is the sphere. So that's
but
what
we don't
I
have
will accept.
access to. We can't make a model or a map like that because we don't have access to everywhere we need to go. And even if we did, I don't have the money.
Neither do I.
Say this, let me see if I get it. Let me ask Layla a question. Layla, what would be the difference in the AE map? Because they say that it's pretty much spot on with the globe in the northern hemisphere, but below the equator, it starts to deviate. What's the difference between the AE map and the globe in the southern hemisphere?
The biggest one is that the South Pole is not a ring around the Earth. It is a continent that happens to be a fairly large space, but it's not a ring around the entire circumference of the Earth.
That's
fair enough.
There would be more
what would we expect? Let me ask a question real quick. What would we expect? What kind of anomalies would we expect to see if, let's just say hypothetically that you're on a flat Earth and the AE map is, it's a representation of a globe, so it can't work perfectly in the southern hemisphere because the longitude lines converge. But let's say, what would we expect to see in real life problems to, indicating that what would be some things you would expect to see in real life if the Earth was flat, like problems, like would you say like bigger distances between continents? Just what kind of anomalies would you expect to see if the Earth were flat, hypothetically?
I don't know how to answer that because the radius of the Earth would be completely different.
Well, we've duplicated the Southern Star Trail effect with that Spanish video of that guy taking concentric circles, which would represent the stars rotating overhead at long exposure. A paper with a bunch of concentric circles on the paper. He puts a hemispheric glass dome on the paper, a little, paperweight, and he shows a whirl toward the center, which would be toward the north on a flattish model, and a whirl toward the south. If you rotated those circles, you would see a counterclockwise star trail and or a clockwise star trail. So based off of being able to demonstrate the effect over a flattish surface, I think that we're good. The globe just tries to say that the ball is rotating and the sky overhead is rotating in turn, giving you, the effect. But like I said, several models can model similar effects. And I would go with that based off of the lack of curvature that we appear to be seeing based off a laser test, long distance, and infrared.
That's all good, but I'm not really talking about the star. I'm not really talking about the stars and the celestials. I'm talking about in real life. What would be some hints? Like what would we expect to see? If I'm just asking him to see where his mind's at, to see if hypothetically speaking, if the Earth was flat, what would we expect to see on Earth?
I gave you my answer, Brian. If I was standing at the center of the North Pole, the distance to the edge of the ice ring, the outer edge, since you guys don't even know the width of the ice ring, we can't determine a radius, whereas on the spherical Earth, we can. So I can't really answer your question because we don't have a radius.
But Merle, we have the voyages of Captain Cook and Captain Ross that appear to be leading to an Antarctic ice ring of at least 60,000 plus miles. So that
was their whole trip. That was his whole trip. And by the way, why do you trust anything he says in his journals? He was part of the Royal Navy.
We don't need to go
they and the them. Why do you trust?
We don't need to go there about epistemology, who I trust and who I don't trust. Frankly, Leo, that's
irrelevant. Lemon,
you have a baseline measurement right there with 60,000 plus miles to give us roughly the distance of the Antarctic ice ring with that at the very least.
Lemon, you cite the distance that Captain Cook traveled. Where did he start from?
He started from England and ended in England. But when he clocked his 20,000 league distance, it was for Antarctica. It was him talking about how much time it took him to get around Antarctica and he couldn't get through.
Lemon, for fuck's sake, just stop a minute. You cited 60,000 miles. That would be his entire trip, which means he set off from the UK, travelled all the way down the Atlantic, both the North and the South Atlantic, and then he had to cross over and then get into the Pacific. And then he had to do the reverse of that coming home. So when you say, we did 60,000 miles, that proves Antarctica's bigger than we say it is, bollocks.
So you're saying that it's for the whole trip and that Antarctica is just a small part of that trip and a continent by logical extension. But what we're saying is that was just for Antarctica. To try to break through Antarctica, he never found a way through. And it was 60,000 leagues, which actually clocks to 69,000 miles. If you take, 20,000 leagues, 3 nautical miles per league, or 60,000 nautical miles, and you get 69,000 miles from that. So we're going to differ as to the interpretation of that number, and there are other people that
that's because you're making shit up.
Let him finish. It actually get really bad because if you guys think it's bad when Lemon is just speaking really fast to get to the end of the point, but then if you guys talk over him, he's gonna push further. He's gonna push further. He's gonna keep pushing further. So why don't you just wait till he finishes? He's not gonna talk for half an hour, for an hour. He's not gonna do it. So you just let him finish
himself.
It's okay, but when he's done, then you can tell him he's repeating himself. If you, in the middle of what he's saying, if you tell him that, he's gonna push and he's gonna start over again. So it's better like that.
He left, but the thing is, we have a different interpretation of that number. It looks like we're saying that it's around Antarctica only, more or less, and you're saying that it's the whole trip to kind of get away from this anomalous number that would otherwise appear to be way too much Antarctica. Antarctica shouldn't be any more than the cosine of the latitude for Antarctica times the supposed circumference of the Earth at the fattest, point for the belt of the Earth at the equator. And the cosine of 60 degrees, since Antarctica is below 60 degrees and would be like 70 or 90 degrees south or whatever, the cosine of 60 degrees is like half. So half of 24,901 miles of Earth's circumference would be like 12,000 miles. So from 12,000 miles to 60,000 plus miles is too much Antarctic land if the flatties are correct about the interpretation of that number. So based off of numbers like that, we're getting highly suspicious.
That's being generous. That's dropping nowhere. That's not even dropping into the Arctic Circle, because the Antarctic Circle doesn't start until 23.6 degrees or 23.4 degrees. So that's being generous, saying 12,000. It's more like 9,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the cosine of wherever Antarctica's at latitude-wise.
See, they can cut me off, but if I get cut off, then if I cut them off, I get in trouble. But if they cut me
Sorry,
off,
Leo. I
okay.
didn't hear you, bud. Sorry.
Sorry, but the whole argument of flat Earth is that the governments of the Earth are hiding the shape of the Earth. Sorry, but Captain Cook was part of the government. Why should you trust anything he says?
You trust a consistent narrative, Leo. The sailors are saying we're down south clocking too much land.
What sailor? Name one sailor that said that.
Latitude-wise, account is way too big. What else?
Name one sailor that says they're clocking too much.
You have the Antarctic Treaty, which appears to be pointing to very controlled exploration of the land. We can't go down there and freely explore to see how big it is. I mean, these things are pointing toward something that's a little suspicious. And the constellations in the south appear to be sweeping over broader arcs of land. And the sun appears to be going faster as it goes toward the south, based off of, yet again, Samuel Robotham saying that he talked to a traveler who went down south and into the northern intersection versus the outer southern section, or the northern hemisphere versus the southern hemisphere from a globe perspective anyway, and said that dusk was arriving sooner in the south than in the north, and it would arrive sooner in the south if the sun was traveling faster over more land a little more quickly for the same 24-hour period. So these things are kind of pointing to some sort of flatty narrative with some sort of flattish model to try to explain this, with the North Pole in the center and more land expanding outward toward the southern outer perimeter.
Okay, I need 30 seconds. First of all, I was going to tell Lemonbird, while you set yourself up to check my screen share or the last image that I just posted on the Daily Boom Uncensored. That's only that Captain Cook trip type of thing. But I want to read this super chat. Let me read this super chat. Mr. Victory's Radio. Hey guys, super chat is back. We are on business. Big shout out. Thank you for the $10, Mr. Victory's Radio. Shout out to super chats are back, and cheers to the Flurf Derps spreading their stupid all around YouTube for people to laugh at them. Oh, and there is no ice wall. Boom. Thank you. Hold on, Leo. Lemon is going to address that.
But I was going first, and then you interrupted me, and then now he gets to go.
Yeah, but because he's going to comment in this map, and then you can go back to your point, Leo.
Okay, I'll try to make it quick, Leo. Let's try to break this into fractions. First of all, this is a visual. It doesn't even necessarily reflect actual distances. It's just a general guide to tell the general route, number one. So we can't tell how far those red lines for Captain Cook's route are actually going without additional data. But even if you want to go off of this, drawing as some sort of indicator, I see 1/3 of the trip from, England down south. That's 1/3 of the trip. At least 2/3 of the trip are down south. So even if we wanted to be generous and take that 60,000 number and cut off 1/3 for the part where he goes up north and up south, that's still 40,000 miles, which is still way too much land down south. It shouldn't be anything more than 24,901 miles, even if you were going to use rough math, rough figuring, or rough logic. Now, for us to figure out what the heck goes into these trips, we're going to need additional data, but just looking at this picture, it's still not enough. Leal, what were you saying?
Thank you. Yeah, take your time. Leal and Lemon for a few minutes, guys. I say no one-on-ones, but Leal deserved that because I interrupted him earlier. I'll mute myself.
In the beginning of Captain Cook's journal, he mentions what the purpose of his journey was. It wasn't to travel all over that, which he did, and found the Cook Islands and everything else. It was to witness in different spots on the Earth the lunar and solar eclipses, and measure and try the transit of Venus across the sun to get a better distance to the sun. That's what his objective of these trips were. Period.
But this is
Now
the
he
best
did more
part
than
of
that. Like,
observations like this, Leo. Sometimes you get additional data that can corroborate your central thesis. I guess in Cook's case, thinking it's a globe. And sometimes you can get additional data that confound your thesis and lead to other questions that can be answered for additional exploration, like why are we clocking way too much freaking land down here for Antarctica based off of an idealized ball, where Antarctica's coastline, if you do a circle around it, shouldn't be any more than the cosine of the latitude times the distance around the fattest part of the supposed ball Earth. So we're going to need to look at the confounding variables and the variables that go with our thesis and against it and see what we can do with this data. And based off of Antarctica clocking way too much land, perhaps it's, more like a flattish pizza expanding outward as opposed to a ball tapering down to a ball southern point.
cool. But none of that was true. He wasn't doing it because the Earth was a globe and he had a presupposed notion that the Earth was a globe. He was doing it to see if they could get a better accurate measurement on the distance to the sun. That's what he was doing it for. Nothing else, nothing more, nothing less.
Okay, that's what he was doing it for, but he got additional data that appears to kind of confound the thesis of Antarctica being on a southern ball tapering to a point. It kind of points to a flattish, pizza expanding outward or more land below the supposed equator of the Earth at the very least. So that's what I'm interested in. I don't care about
It has nothing to do with the flat pizza Earth. It has to do with witnessing Venus go across the face of the sun to get a better distance to the sun. That's what it has to do with. All his trip. Yes, he landed on other islands and he found the Cook Islands. He landed in Hawaii and other places. But the main purpose was in those places to witness the transit of Venus across the face of the sun to get a distance to the sun. Nothing with mapping the distance of Antarctica or doubling or tripling the distance that he actually traveled. It had to do with the transit of Venus, period.
Well, this is part of good observation, to take good enough notes so that if confounding variables later emerge, you have good data to go off of. What he was doing with Venus isn't relevant to what I'm focusing on to help solve this problem of whether it's round or flat, Leo. The only part that's relevant to whether or not it's round or flat is the distance he appears to be clocking to go around Antarctica, which appears to be confounding and not going with the supposed globe notion of tapering down to a ball point. That is what I'm focusing on. What he's doing with Venus for the purposes of this question, Leo, it's kind of irrelevant. He logged his distance and he's logging too much distance. So assuming he was logging it accurately, we have a problem here, Leo, with the globe model.
I'm sorry, Levin, but if he's getting a more accurate distance to the sun, then that destroys at least one portion of a model that the flat Earth presents, a 3,000-mile sun. They got a more accurate distance, and it was a lot greater than 3,000 miles. It was a lot greater than 100,000.
Yes, 4,000.
Hey, let me read this one quick one. This one is by Jomongus. It's a PayPal hit, and I actually like PayPal. But I'm gonna read Jomongus' point, and this is a big $10. Jomongus says, "I like to PayPal versus Super Chat because you get 100%, and I agree with you. Congrats on the Super Chats being enabled, and I hope the channel continues to grow. Excited to hear Lemon and Leaky as they are very entertaining. Still looking forward to the Battle of the Minds with Leaky versus Leo. Shout out to Jomongus. Thank you, sir." Boom.
So we're going to need to take different data and see if it's going with this globe model. Now, as to the distance of the sun, Leo, in the way that you're trying to say that it points to some sort of heliocentric model, first of all, the distance of the sun is irrelevant to the shape of the land under our feet yet again. So that's not really relevant for discussion. It would be trivial and not really help us solve the problem. But even if we did want to focus on the distance of the sun, Leo, if we're going to use geometric triangles, we just need to see when we get a 45-degree angle to the sun. And that gives us a triangle with two equal sides that makes it very easy to figure out the distance to the sun, supposedly based off of geometry alone, and not thinking that refraction or some sort of other thing is going on to mess up our assumption. So
Got it.
anywhere where you get a
You know
45
that
degree
doesn't
angle
work.
to the sun, you know that the distance from you to the subsolar point is equal to the distance from the subsolar point up to the sun at that point, and we get that around 3,000 miles. So based off of just regular geometry, without additional assumptions that the sun has to be super far away, we get about 3,000 miles. But refraction could confound that variable too. So there's different ways to look at that.
I mean, you know that doesn't
Incorrect.
work. You know that doesn't work. You've been told that time and time again, and you still come
I
back.
haven't been told good reasons why it doesn't work. I've been told
Because
what's
the Earth is not flat, Lemon. It's the only thing that makes sense. The whole thing with 69 miles for every 1 degree equals 60 nautical miles, 69 statute miles, only works on a sphere. It does not. Again, does
So
not.
you have to go
work
to
on
the heavenly bodies then. So you have to point to the stars and the earth to show curvature.
Yeah, well, we can now.
Earth.
Yeah, we can now,
show
Brian.
us the curvature of the ground, bud.
Brian, we can look up to the sky. Remember the section is the flat Earth, the great flat Earth proof. The section, we can look at the section now. We can look to the sky. It's up to your flat Earth wizards who say we can. So we can look to the sky.
Well, the sextant would need flat lines, and that would only be on a flat surface, not a ball. You would have to invoke a tangent that is touching the ball, or invoke lines that you draw in air, in space, with a plumb bob and something perpendicular to the plumb bob. That's this imaginary line that you're drawing in space itself. You still need flat lines. And the thing that pretends to provide the most flat lines without a plumb bob and some sort of imaginary perpendicular line in space or a tangent to a ball would be a flat surface.
It's just angles, Lemon. It's just
Okay,
angles.
I got a quick question. Truth Nerds with a €2 super chat. Lemon, what distance did Cook clock? You got any sources for that? Thank you, Truth Nerds.
His logs. He said he clocked 60,000 nautical miles or 20,000 leagues, specifically in his diary or whatever. 20,000 leagues computes to 60,000 nautical miles, which computes to roughly 69,000 miles.
Apparently, you have not done any actual research on this. For one,
Yeah.
Captain
just
Cook.
research the route that he took. They have to show him doing a bunch of.
Excuse me. Can you let me finish? Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
For one, Captain Cook used a sextant. He used the Nautical Almanac and Astronomical Ephemeris for those years.
What year? What year was it?
Let's see. I got a 1770. A 1773. I have actually a number of.
Yeah,
I have a number of. Go ahead.
How many stars were in their ephemeris in the southern hemisphere in 1773, please?
Let me look it up. I'm looking through the ephemeris right now because I actually have an actual copy.
There's a lot of stars. I don't know if that sort of questioning will really lead us to any sort of resolution, but Eric Debay talks about how the southern pole star wasn't even discovered until the 1700s and isn't visible with commercially regular available telescopes. You need a really powerful telescope to see it.
No, actually,
so Eric
normal
Debay
telescope
to question this whole southern pole star narrative on that grounds. What were you saying, Paid Nasta Show?
No, you're wrong. The southern pole star is visible with most any telescope you buy in the store.
Have you seen it yourself?
Personally?
We're both just reporting what we heard. I'd like to know what the source of what you're saying is. If you're just saying,
have I seen a bent to any country outside the United States?
You saying that it's visible to commercially available telescopes exactly versus what Debay is saying.
Lemonbird, I've not been outside the United States. I mean, they don't
I'd like to know what makes you feel comfortable challenging what I say. Have you seen it yourself? Have you heard a report from somebody?
I've not seen any country outside the United States myself.
Looking to Paid NASA Show.
Sigma Montanus is a magnitude 5 star that is easily seen with any commercially available telescope.
Real question.
So you're going off of the magnitude to say that it's a high enough magnitude to be visible, so it should be visible, as opposed to you actually did see it. Okay, fine, logical. I just need to see if that's verified. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's verified. Is anyone in Australia right now?
How does that matter? Whether or not there's a star very close to where all the other stars are going around. They're still going around a specific geometric point, and Sigma Montanus is not even as close to that pole as Polaris. So how does that matter?
Well, the
doesn't.
main
It's
thing
just a
is
really
the
good
Globers are
deflection.
using it as evidence of their ball. What were you saying?
I said it
Yeah.
doesn't. It merely
Going around
deflects from the actual topic at hand.
Yeah, it's a
going around
deflection.
the point, independent of whether or not there's a star there.
And why is there 2 points, Lemon? How can it be 2 points on the space pizza?
Based off of that Spanish video where the guy put the hemispheric dome cupola paperweight over this
No.
concentric
Wait a minute.
circular
So
rings,
which one
a
is this? Is
similar
this?
effect is mapped. So I'm going to go with that similar effect based off of deformation through atmosphere, or glass, or some other medium,
So the atmosphere works like a big hunk of glass.
along
There's
with the
gotta be at
firmament
least
that's
3 points,
overhead.
right?
No, sorry,
So
it
I-
doesn't work that way, Lemon.
No, I mean the next thing is okay, great. That's a postulation, Lemon. So, what physical evidence do you have for this glass-like material?
Meteorites, sundogs, parhelions, etc.
Well, no, meteorites are generally not made of glass. They're generally made of rock or
That
metal.
Some of them are glass-like.
what do you call it? Libyan desert glass.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
actually created. That's actually created from the impact of the meteorites, not by the meteorite. They're not meteorites themselves. That's kind of like a bit
It's
silly.
everywhere. It ain't created
Yeah.
by meteorites. It's everywhere.
Yeah, we get lots of little spherules, which is when the sand gets basically turned into molten, flies up, comes back down, and it forms small spheres. Yeah, and we also get that with other materials as well. But what we do find generally at the center is, if we're lucky, not all the time, but if we're lucky and the object's hard enough and big enough, we'll actually find the meteorite material itself, which tends to be a quite hard, dense material.
I've got a quick question for Lemon on something that he said about 10 minutes ago.
What about?
Hey, let me welcome StingRay, and that was perfect timing, StingRay. We're gonna break the silence with a super chat I'm gonna read, and then you can take the floor. Big shout out to Sean Smith with a $10 super chat. Hey, this thing works. Hey, Lemon, can you show me a picture of the ice wall with any data? Shout out to Sean Smith. Thank you, brother, for the super.
Can I make a quick question?
StingRay
You got two
is there.
questions on
StingRay, you got green light to Larry to talk. It's your point, man. I'll mute myself.
Yeah, go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, it's a quick point. Where you're talking about all this desert glass, are those like chips off the dome? Are you saying that the dome, the glass in the deserts and from whatever cause of meteorites, you're saying that's part of the dome?
I go with chips off the dome myself.
Oh, okay. So the dome is breaking up.
Well, it's glass. It's very. I go with something that's very glass-like, but it can melt, say, when the sun's close by, possibly, or whatever, and slag back into shape and solidify back into shape. If parts slag off, you get a couple glass shards that can slag off as hot liquid and melt back into. Solidify back into a meteorite later. That's what I'd go with.
Some sort of magical material. It has super strength properties. It's transparent and unable to be detected by any sort of test that we want to do. But it's there. We know it.
Well, we got the ionosphere. Perhaps the ionosphere is the ionodome.
No, the ionosphere is just
radar.
Okay, wait.
Yeah, radar is not transparent. Glass is not transparent to radar. So
I was afraid I was afraid this was going to happen.
Oh, sorry, Stingray's go. You're right.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I actually think we don't explore Lemon's postulations enough. So about 15 minutes ago now, Lemon, you mentioned that the sun could potentially be 300 miles or 3,000 miles away. Yeah, 3,000 miles away. That's what he said. I've got an interesting question for you. So, if the angular size of something is 1 degree, and something is 3,000 miles away at 1 degree, how many degrees would it be at 6,000 miles? Can you answer that for me? I'm a bit confused.
According to the math that we use, we'd use the tangent. So it would be the tangent of 1 degree equals the distance to the object, the height of the object divided by the distance to the object. So the height of the object, what were you trying to find? What was your variable you were trying to find?
So at 3,000 miles, it's 1 degree. How big is that in degrees at 6,000 miles?
If it's 1 degree at 3,000 miles,
Yes.
we'd need the size of the sun. So it would vary depending on the size of the sun. So we'd have to make a
wait a minute. The size.
We don't have
So-
anything to put in for H to solve for
No, wait a minute.
tangent 1 equals H
No,
divided by 3,000.
No, I didn't mention
Once
the
we
sun.
have that information,
Oh,
we can
God.
solve for tangent X equals H over 6,000. So without the height, we can't answer that, the actual height of the sun.
Right. Okay, let me ask this again. Don't answer any other questions, just answer my questions. If something has an angular size of 1 degree and it is 3,000 miles away, when that same 1 degree at 3,000 miles is now at 6,000 miles, what degree size is it? You're on mute, by the way. If you were talking.
He might have had a phone call or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, Brian Leake is here. Maybe, I mean, you're paying attention, Leake. Maybe you want to address the point. Look, I miss you, Brian Leake. A lot of people been asking for you. I've been wondering, where the hell have you been?
Yeah, miss you, Brian.
We're freaky for the leaky.
Same to you, Brian. If you've been talking, you're muted.
I mean, I don't think it's a hard question to answer, is it, StingRay?
Yeah, no, not at all. But my follow-up question would be, well, what about if that half a degree at 6,000 miles, what about if we went to 12,000 miles? How many degrees is it then? And then, how wide is this disk of yours, and what altitude did you say the sun's at again?
My phone froze. What I was
Yeah.
trying to say, StingRay or Dress, I apologize,
Oh my God.
is you don't have enough information to answer the question. To answer the question, you need the height of the object. So without H, you can't answer that. Because what we're trying to do is solve for the tangent of 1 degree equals H, the height of the object, divided by 3,000. Once we have H, we can solve for the tangent of X equals the height of the object divided by 6,000 once we have the height. Without that, we can't really say that. Now, if you're going to try to say that twice the distance, half the angle, or whatever you're trying to imply, okay, then it would be a half of 1 degree, but technically you don't have enough information to solve the question because you don't have the height of the object. Now, if you wanted to go with the sun being 32 miles in diameter, okay, we could go off of those figures with 32,000 miles in diameter divided by 3,000 and go from there.
So here we go. Because I want to make sure I understand what you just said. You said we need the height. Now, I'm not going to ask why we need the height. I'm simply going to phrase it as follows. If I have 1 degree of size at 3,000 miles away from me, that is an elevation of 45 degrees. I don't care about it's. I'll do trig if you want, and I'll tell you its altitude. But let's just say I'm looking up at it, 45 degrees. Is that any different to 1 degree that is 3,000 miles away at 20 degrees elevation? What is the difference in between them? Both of those will be at different altitudes. The distance is the same, and the angular size is the same. Are you saying that's incorrect?
I said you didn't have enough information and the way that the problem was formed to solve the problem. Now, if we have the height of the sun, we can solve and plug in and get some general,
Not the sun. Not the sun. Forget the
angular
sun.
expectations. Your example had the sun, StingRay.
Okay.
Are we going to
Forget the sun.
stabilize
It's
this hypothetical, or is it going to jump all over the place?
No.
That's
The
regular
sun.
Let me
The sun
know
is
when your
half a degree.
hypothetical is stabilized enough for me to answer it.
Okay, so let me ask again. If something has an altitude of 20,000 feet, well, let's say 3,000 miles, and it's directly above me, and it has an angular size of 1 degree, is that angular size going to decrease the further that object gets away from me at that same altitude?
One would assume yes.
Okay. So given that you accept that, what's your theory for why the sun does not do that, does not follow any known path for any observer that would comport to a circular orbit of a flat plane, and shows the same size to everyone?
Well, to see an object vanish down to a pinprick, half of it needs to be above the level of the eyes and half of it needs to be below the level of the eyes. If you're too close to the surface, it's going to set early from the horizon being brought in closer to the observer.
He's not asking about optics. He's asking about geometry.
Hold on, please. Hold on.
And preserve its size before it does so because you're too close to the surface. Get up higher and you have a wider viewing angle and you have more chance to see the sun vanish down to a pinprick and change angular size more dramatically.
I need 30 seconds, and this might take us slightly to the side for a minute, maybe. But Tommy Grumble don't have a lot of time, and he gave me a super chat. The super chat says, "I got the screen share right here." Jose, this is for 55 Nokias. Thank you, Tommy Grumble. 55 Nokias, I'll take them. Jose, could you Google a pic of Vendée Globe race route map and show Lemonbird? It's a sailboat race every 4th year around Antarctic. This is an image. I'm screen sharing that. Lemon, I don't know if you're watching my screen share, or I can share that image that I found on the Daily Boom Discord server. What do you think about that image, about the race?
It appears they're clocking way too much distance based off of the racing speed of these yachts. These racing yachts can go up to 30 plus miles per hour. And so based off of that as a typical speed, times 24 hours a day of travel, assuming that they don't stop, have doldrums, or take a break, times the number of days it takes them to complete the race, we're still getting way too much land. So we still have a problem based off of computing the speed times the unit time or whatever to figure out how much land or how much distance they're actually traversing based off of, top speeds of these yachts. So the Vendée Globe may be superimposed onto an idealized graphic saying that we're a globe, but based off of their speeds and the time it takes them to finish, the race with those speeds, we're not really seeing this globe here. It's just too much land.
I'm going to ask a question on behalf of Tommy. That would be a follow-up question, Lemon. I'm sure he'd ask it. How much is that discrepancy? Because we're really interested.
I calculated anything from 40,000 to 60,000. It depends on what top speed you're going to go with, how much you think they're traveling, how when they reach, some sort of dead air. I mean, how slow or fast you think they're typically going as an average. I was calculating anywhere from 30,000 up to 60,000. Still way too much land for a 24,901 mile globe. So there's discrepancies.
There you go. That's a globe interpretation of that.
What was the speed that you used? What were the speeds you'd anticipated?
This phone's freezing up again. Can anybody hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
What speeds speeds do you use in your calculation?
I just mentioned 30 miles per hour for a racing yacht.
30 miles an hour as an average speed or top speed, median speed? I mean,
average.
30, that's pretty freaking high.
While they are racing, what speed do you have?
7 miles per hour. 7.
You have 7 miles per hour?
Yes, I think it's like 7 knots. I think it is.
It's pretty close to 7 miles an hour.
But really quick, what I want I'm really interested on you to see this on a globe, because it goes around Antarctica here, big time, Lemonbird. I mean, look at this. This is beautiful.
The
Well,
average race
how would you
distance.
calculate the distance that they should cover? Yet again, what they should cover on a globe, assuming that they're doing a line of latitude that where they don't deviate and go up and down, would be the cosine of the latitude, 60 degrees or less, since cosine of 60 is half, or basically half of 24,901 miles, or around that point. It should be like 12 to 15,000 miles when we assume at that latitude. Based off of these speeds, the speed that I went with of 30 miles per hour times the unit time, it's getting up into the 40s.
Right. The average race length is approximately 24,000 miles. Last year, the winner completed it in 80 days. That's an average speed of 12.5 miles an hour.
If Lemon uses ridiculous speeds, of course he gets ridiculous answers.
Yes, but it is, give or take, the length of the race is approximately 24,000 miles. And the winner last year did it in 80 days, 3 hours and 44 minutes. And that's roughly 12.5 miles an hour if you average it out over the 80 days. Obviously, at some point they were going fast. At some point they're probably going slower, but it's an average speed of 12.5 miles an hour.
Yeah. All right, we got StingRay. I hijacked your point. You wanna pick it up again?
No, I'm fine. Lemon does agree that if the sun was 3,000 miles high and was a circle, and that circle got further away around a flat plane, that it would decrease in angular size and therefore doesn't match our reality, and I'm fine with that.
And I was curious because he said you'll need an H for that. You'll need the height. Yet just prior, he said how they could calculate the height with at the 45 parallel and the angle to the sun. So he's calculated the height. And then when you talk about the additional distance, it would go away from noon to sunset. He said you don't have enough information because you don't have the height. So I was really kind of confused. And then whether or not it's above or below the center of the eye, whether or not it goes to a pinpoint, that is like some really inventive. I mean, I don't see that. Doesn't occur with my eyes.
So are you talking about 1 degree off the horizon, or the sun being a 1 degree angle size object? Which one are you talking about? Now, if you're talking about the sun being a 1 degree angular size object, then you're going to need the height. It's going to be the height divided by the distance of the object to equal the tangent of the angular size of the object.
Okay. When you ask for an answer, don't then continue repeating shit you've already said. I'm talking about the sun, which is a half a degree, and when we see it on the horizon, it's cut in half as it's setting, and it's also cut in half as it's rising, and it's still a full half degree wide at that point, all the way to noon, still a half degree wide, and it never goes to a point. It never.
And I said that wouldn't happen because it's going to set early because of compressed viewing angle. To have a chance for the sun to disappear down to a pinprick and change angular size the most dramatically, the conditions under which that occurs is when half of it is above the level of the eyes and half of it's below the level of the eyes. When you're too close to the ground, that condition isn't there. It sets early from compressed viewing angle.
Why is it that you're the only one who has that experience and all of academia does not?
Well, I've seen videos where it vanishes to a pinprick and with or without a filter. So even with that, we're covered. We're covered, number one, because by our principles, we have excuses on our side to cover why this occurs from compressed viewing angle, number one. Number two, we show it occurring with a filter or without one, so we're covered on that too. So for us, this is just a non-issue. It's not an issue. The Globers are presenting this saying that the sun should vanish down to a pinprick on a flat Earth, on their idealized flat Earth, but it appears to set bottom first over a globe showing obstruction. Their principle is flawed because a compressed viewing angle from a flattie's perspective could explain that too, to excuse away our model and why the sun would disappear while preserving its size. So we just disagreed on the principles.
Lemon, at what point the sun is below the level of the eyes, according to you?
Trikey, you know that I say that it
don't
go below it.
No, you said below the level of the eyes. When it's half,
it would
half
appear
of it
to
is below the level of the eyes. When is it below the level of the eyes?
Just like you say, the Earth appears to be flat, but is actually curved. It appears to go below the level of the eyes, but is actually overhead.
So, why would anything happen then?
Because of compressed viewing angle.
Compressed what?
Viewing angle.
What does that mean, Lemon?
You're too close to the ground. The angles that are available to the eye are limited.
Right. So if I've got
Like
a 1 degree,
3,000 mile limited, Lemon.
The lower half of your vision pairs symmetrically with the top half of your vision to generate a 2D image. The lower half of your vision is highly compressed, so it can only symmetrically pair with very limited angles in the top. A blind spot forms, the information is dropped, and no 2D image is rendered because the
Lemon.
bottom half of your vision is too compressed.
How much limited is our view to the sun when it's 3,000 miles above and I don't know how many miles away?
From the level of the eyes up, Chaiki, relatively limitless. From the level of the eyes down, Chaiki, extremely limited. From the level of the eyes down, if you're 6 feet tall and your eyes are 6 feet off of the ground, only 6 feet of visual information can be symmetrically represented by the eye up to 3
We're
to 6
talking about
miles.
the sun, but it's 3,000 miles up.
But your eye sees in angle packets, Chaiki. These angle packets go out from the eye like a triangle or a pie slice. It expands. The lower half of your vision, Chaiki, is trying desperately to expand to take in more information, but there's this ground 6 feet away from the eyes that's compressing the viewing angle and limiting what's available to the eye.
Yeah, but we're not talking about all the way up to the sun. We're talking about the sun itself. And what is the angle packets you're talking about?
Yes, 10 degrees. 10 degrees of angle above and below the level of the eyes is going to encapsulate different amounts of optical visual information based off the height of the objects that can be accommodated in that angle packet. Your bottom, from the level of the eyes down to the ground, a 10-degree angle packet can only max out at 6 feet of object that is represented in that angle packet. The top keeps on expanding, encapsulating 6 feet, 20 feet, 100 feet, a mile. This asymmetrical pairing is going to be read as an error by the eye, and the eye's just going to drop the information, or the camera or whatever. It's just not going to be symmetrically represented. There's going to be a blind spot where no representation of the image occurs, basically.
I got an image on screen right now. That Brad T Science Bro just posted. It's a little perspective visualization here.
I have a question. In the application of using a sextant, you get the mirrors to bring the image of the sun down to the horizon, and then you apply the semi-diameter. And in all the ephemerides for all the sextants, they use a constant or seasonally with a seasonal slight variation. The semi-diameter of the sun is constant. So what the hell are you talking about, Lemon? Sextants work. The flat earth people are all about using sextants, and they're all about using the nautical almanac. And the nautical almanac has a constant semi-diameter, full diameter of the sun throughout the course of the day. So how do you
it works on a flat plane.
Using a sextant with a constant diameter of the sun, independent of its altitude in the sky, or as it comes to the horizon?
But the problem from a flatty perspective is to have angles, you need a line. What line do you have on a globe? You would have to draw an imaginary line in the air with a plumb bob and perpendicular to the plumb bob, or you'd have to assume that your line of sight is going tangent to the ball or something to that effect.
That wasn't my question. Stay on point.
Larry, your question doesn't really help us solve the problem.
Yeah, the problem is
The question is whether the sextant is working on a flat plane and or a ball. That is the central crux of the question. How can you have sextant angle measurements without lines, Larry? You don't have lines on a ball. Sorry.
You just said that there would be a vertical compression making it go to a pinpoint, and yet in the almanac and with sextant application, as it's at the horizon, it's not a pinpoint. It's not quoted as a pinpoint. It is not cited as shrinking in any way, shape, or form, but you're saying it does, or would, or should. But that's unobserved, and it's in the almanac as being a constant diameter all the way throughout the course of the day, and everybody's all about using sextants because now we're looking at stars to learn about the shape of the Earth because everybody's doing it. So why did you say it goes to a pinpoint? You've got videos that go into a pinpoint.
It goes to a pinprick if you're at the same height as the object and it's going away from you.
Was I done? I was done. You talk longer than this. Yeah, and in all the almanacs, they have the constant width and no shrinkage, but you're saying you saw a video with shrinkage.
I've seen videos shown by people where the sun vanishes down to a pinprick in the distance with and without a filter. Now, the conditions that I was talking about when that tends to occur, Larry, is when half of it is above the level of the eyes and half of it is below the level of the eyes. Otherwise, if you're lower than that point, like us being close to the ground, it's going to tend to set early while preserving its size. That's all.
You know what? That didn't have anything to do with the fact that a nautical almanac quotes the constant size, and when we're using a sextant, we see the constant size, but you saw a video of questionable focal length and questionable zooming. Got it.
So you're going to invalidate my experience by saying the almanac says this, therefore you must be wrong because I trust this almanac rather than what you say about your experience. That's fine, Larry, but I've seen the videos where it's vanished down to a pinprick by Phuket World and others. Globers just say that it's from refraction or atmospherics. That's fine, but it vanishes down to a pinprick with a filter, without one. It preserves its size. It just looks different depending on where you are. So at that point, we're just going to have to agree to disagree.
I was going by not only my experience, but the experience of marine navigation and geodetic surveying for many centuries now. It's not just my experience discounting your experience. It's you said something kind of unsupported by. You saw a video of it shrinking, yet no marine sextant user sees this. No documentation of applying a shrinking sun in using the sun for navigation. So it's your experience versus the entire academic world, not just you against me.
Larry, how does this help us discover the shape of the Earth exactly? This is a distraction. The size of the sun is irrelevant. This started because StingRay was asking how over a flat surface the sun would set while preserving its angular size and appear to set. That was the context of the answer. This other stuff that you're talking about is kind of moot and irrelevant about whether a sextant works and other stuff. I mean, who cares? What does it have to do with StingRay's question exactly? How does this help us determine the shape of the Earth?
The sunrise sunset is the best evidence for the fact that the Earth rotates and is a sphere. That is the number one primordial evidence of that fact.
That is just poor logic. You're saying that the sun looks a certain way, therefore we're rotating? Those two things aren't even related. To prove that we're rotating, we need to have some sort of metric to feel this motion or to clock this motion. Looking up at the sun and saying, oh, it sets bottom first, therefore I'm going to infer that it's moving. That isn't even necessary inference. You could make another inference. You could go another route with the logic just as easily with no contradiction. So your argument's a little weak on that basis.
But we can clock the rotation at degrees per hour. That's easy. And look, if you point at the sun at sunrise, then you point at it at noon, and then you point at it at sunset, you've drawn a half circle. Now you need to finish that circle and imagine where the sun is at midnight and see how that makes sense to you.
Well, you're inferring that it has to go below the horizon and therefore it went to the other side of a ball. But the way that inference does not follow is you see something similar happen when you look down a hallway. The lights in the ceiling, just like the sun, moon, and stars, as long as they don't change elevation, would be like the lights in the ceiling of the hallway. They appear to approach what appears to be a horizon toward the level of the eyes of the observer in a very similar effect. And if you are down way below the object, it's going to set early and preserve its size while doing so because you're too close to the limiting surface. So as far as I can tell, your inference isn't necessary at that point. We can just make another inference.
No, that's perfect, but I would like you to complete then the missing half circle. We already got the circle, the sunrise, I'm pointing at the sun. Then we got the sun at noon, I'm pointing straight up. Then we got the sunset, I'm pointing to my other side. Now, can you complete the circle? Am I gonna keep pointing in front of me, like right in front of me, right above the horizon? And I'm gonna be pointing behind me, right above the horizon. How can you complete that circle? I mean, that's what I want to do.
It's like a rainbow. A rainbow is a big hula hoop bow that is suspended above the ground that you can see if you're high enough up. But when you get close to the ground, it takes on the aspect of an arch. The circle of the sun as it circles overhead is a big bow going over the flat surface. It takes on the aspect of an arch depending on how close you are to the surface. It's the same thing. And if you're really close to the surface, all you're going to see is something that appears to be a straight path overhead when it's really an arc or really a circle. So all of the principles appear to be there by similar application, and so I'm pretty comfortable making that inference instead.
Let me try this then. I'm gonna turn on my camera. We got now. This is the example. We need a visual. I don't know if you can see me, Lemon. What am I doing?
I can see you're waving.
Like a queen, like a beautiful queen. All right.
Hi, how you doing? Hey.
All right.
Long live the
So
queen.
we got the sunrise. Let me put it right here because the sunrise come over here. All right. So we got the sunrise. I'm pointing over there, and noon. I'm pointing right over here above me, and then there comes the sunset, and I'm pointing at the horizon. What do I do now? Do I point around me like this, and then it will come back, and then we got the sunrise again? Or should I go after easy about the sunset? Am I gonna keep pointing in front of me, and then it's gonna be coming up again? So it's gonna go like this, the sun, and it's gonna be in front of me. Is that what you imply? That's the semicircle I
Yeah.
need to complete.
Yes. Basically, if you were high enough up, you'd see the sun circling around you. That is correct. But because you're too close to the ground, it's going to set first while it's still actually overhead because of compressed viewing angle.
So it's gonna be hauling ass. Sunrise is gonna come up, noon, sunset, and it's gonna be hauling us all the way around, and then it's gonna be a sunset, sunrise.
got it. You
Okay,
got it.
yeah, okay. I put my hands up. That's what that I really wanted that for a long time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lemon, just
That doesn't,
Who wants to go? Go ahead,
I was
left lane.
just saying,
Left lane,
that,
left
yeah,
lane.
that observation just doesn't make sense. I mean, you draw in a half circle, and on a flat Earth, you would have to point due north at midnight. So you're going to draw another half circle at 90 degrees to that other circle, and that simply does not make sense.
Well, you're trying to make a geometric claim where the path of the sun continues in an actual geometric circle, but we don't see in geometric like that. We see compressed viewing angles that either are big enough to be resolvable as a 2D image that we can see and resolve in reference to the path of the sun that we can actually make out, and compressed viewing angle to the point where things just are unresolvable by the eye if you're at too narrow of an angle or too far away. So the sun is actually circling overhead. You just can't see the whole path because you're too low to the ground and you can't resolve anything past a certain point. You can tell that the sun is always overhead, like what was his name? J.G. Abizaid, I think. Some dude in the early 1900s said in his pamphlet, his little short flat earth pamphlet, that, we always see the sunlight come through the window with a decidedly downward aspect. It doesn't revolve toward the ceiling and then down toward the ground like you would expect on a revolving object. It always comes through with a decidedly downward aspect, as if it is always overhead. And so obviously it is always circling overhead. It just deceptively appears to go below something because of compressed viewing angle.
So wait. So Jose was wrong. He shouldn't point to the horizon. He should point higher than the horizon when he goes back, right?
Yeah, slightly
The
above the horizon.
The sun, not slightly, a lot above the horizon.
Way
You
above.
yes, because you just don't see the sun due to compressed angles and limited I don't know what. But the sun is not where you see it to be. It's much higher than that. That makes sense, Lemon, right?
Most accurately, it's circling above you, but you're too close to the ground and only trace a small part of its path before it simply merges with the horizon and is not visible for you anymore.
I'm not talking about visible. I'm talking to point. If I want to point where the sun is, I should point way above the horizon, right?
To be accurate, you need to trace the sun's path as it circles around you, but you can't see it. So you would be making inferences based off of the part of the path that you see and trying to continue that inference to make it a huge circle that circles above and under the earth. That's where your inference no longer follows and needs to be examined for some other inference that you could logically make.
Logically.
I've got a
That's
question,
logical to you, right? And in the winter, it's even worse because you're actually drawing the circle around the south, and then suddenly when the sun set, you need to turn to the north. Right?
Well, a circle would have northern, southern, and I guess eastern and western components, depending on how you draw it from your position. Now, if you want to get an accurate, north, south, east, west, direction. North would be in the center from a flat Earth perspective. South would be away from the north outward, crossing wherever you are on the flat plane. That would be a true north-south for you. Toward the center and away from the center, going straight through you toward the outer southern perimeter. East-west would be a circle that follows the sun that would be, I guess, cut in half by that north-south line that's going straight through you from north to south. So east-west are actually a circle if you want to be more accurate. Now, if you want to be even more accurate, you need to see where the sun is circling directly overhead and make that absolute, east and west based off of where the sun is, because we tell east and west based off of the path of the sun. That will vary throughout the year. So at best, you would get a most direct east-west line for your location based off of where the sun would rise and set at equinox for your location. And then it would the sun would migrate to the left and right of that point where it rises and sets on the horizon at equinox for your location. It would migrate to the left and right of that position for you throughout the year. That would give you a more accurate, declination, if anything, or a more accurate direction.
So I just want to understand. When I see the sun set at the southwest at 0 degrees, where should I point? To point where the sun really is? Not where I see.
To get the most accurate position, you need to do this, Chaiki. You need to look at where the sun is at noon. It would be closest to you at noon and take on more or less its truest position. At noon, draw a north-south line straight through you to the sun at noon. Get where the sun is and the circle of the sun as it circles over the flat plane east to west at noon. That would be the truest east-west, because perspective is a hell of a drug. You can see it rising or setting from that point in a bunch of different ways. So the truest position, Chaiki, would be at noon, north-south line going straight through you, and east-west based off of where the sun is directly overhead over the flat plane, and that would give you a true east-west based off of the position of the sun.
Absolutely. And then I see it set south to the west.
For your location. For your location.
Every location of Earth, it will be south to west.
But
in the
Chaiki, the horizon is a bunch of vanishing points. Extended left, right, and then the plane away.
Just tell me where should I point, not where I see the sun, but where should I point? Where the sun is, not where I see it.
But Chaiki, that would be for everybody. You need to see where the sun rises and sets for you at equinox first. Wherever you are on the flat plane.
We know.
I'm gonna have StingRay screen sharing in the background. If you guys want to keep talking, I just want to have StingRay is gonna be presented for YouTube. And I kill my camera, and the Earth still squeaks. I got Froggy.
I just want to ask Lemon a quick question, and then add
typical when they want to prove the shape of the Earth, they go straight up to the heavens. That's their only proof is looking up at the sun and the stars.
Look, I asked Lemon a simple question. I just asked him to point where the sun is. That's all. And he went on a big story.
So, Lemon,
you have to get up high enough to see it. What were you saying, StingRay?
So Lemon, I've got a 3,000 mile high sun on this lovely, beautiful flat Earth model. Now, I don't give a shit about continent layout.
Make it 4. Make it 4, StingRay. Make it 4,000.
4,000. Why?
Because when we triangulate from 1 degree, it's 3,958.7 miles. So it's
correct. Okay, now it's 4,000. But before I just ask this question using these graphics, I've got another question, Lemon, just really quickly. For an object that's 3,000 miles high and taking up half a degree above me, let's forget about the size reduction bollocks. How far would it have to go away at that altitude to get down to the last degree of my vision? Approximately. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be accurate. Just approximately. I'll tell you what. Last 5 degrees. Last 5 degrees. Not last degree because too much atmosphere. Last 5 degrees.
So you're saying that it's 5 degrees above the horizon?
Yes, correct. Yes. How far does that sun that is 3,000 miles or 4,000 above my head have to go to get to the last 5 degrees of the horizon?
Like I said before, it would be the tangent of 5 degrees equals the height of the object. Let's go with 3,000 divided by the distance to the object, and you'd solve for D. Basically, in the calculator, it's the height 3,000 divided by the tangent of 5 degrees, and you'd solve for that.
So how far?
Hold on.
In my model, the sun's a focal point, man. So the size is irrelevant. You're going to get the same size wherever you see it from.
Focal point.
3,000 divided by the tangent of 5 degrees.
The sun's not real, Brian?
34,000 miles away. 34,290.
Yeah. So 34,000 miles away. So when it was 3,000 miles above my head, and now it's gone 30-odd thousand miles away, the size of that sun and the intensity of that light, given the inverse square law, has to dramatically change, right?
Yeah.
Does it?
Unless you go with light traveling infinitely far in the black reaches of space. I guess this depends on what you go with, but yeah, sure.
No, we don't go with that. Light dies at a very measurable rate. So this 30,000 miles is going to dramatically alter the light intensity of where I am, as well as the size of the sun. That is correct, right?
Sure.
So my question is, well, my main question is, well, why doesn't it then? But here's another interesting question. This is, I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's 3,000 or 4,000, but this is an observation point on the tropic, and we're looking from Melbourne, and I'm looking up at the flat Earth sun, whether it be a focal point or wherever, it's doing this, and we're actually seeing it go away. That's 4,000 miles high. Comes back round.
Yeah, it's the focal point that shows up to each individual observer about 3,958.7 miles away.
So the issue with saying focal point and multiple observers is then it's not a focal point, Brian. A focal point is a definitive.
Next thing you know, you'll be trying to triangulate to a rainbow.
A focal point is a definitive. Are you saying this is like the sun is like a rainbow then?
I mean, I'm just being sarcastic. Like you're going to try and triangulate the rainbows or clouds or something.
So anyway, this is for both of you actually, or Lemon. So this is the flat Earth sun doing its circle. Now, in no way anywhere on the planet does this ever work as an observational point. Now, if I map the observational point of this single observer here in Melbourne, Australia, this is what we get. And it's quite interesting. We get this. Now, I'm disregarding the size here because, no. It has to be this distance to be the size that it is. But that wouldn't be the case if we looked for it somewhere else in Australia. This is only for someone in Melbourne. Now, this is what they see. They see this. Which is weird, right? Because not only does it rise south of east, it also takes a completely different path.
No, they tell you south of east until you take out the magnetic declination. Like I said,
Brian, for the very, very last time, I'm really sorry. I don't care about the magnetic fields of the Earth.
Yeah, well, listen. If you go by the compass, that's not accurate, bud.
Brian, true direction. That's all I'm on about. True direction. Star trails. True direction. True north. True south. That's it. So
you're using the sun to make your map, though, and then you're going to add magnetic declination to it to make it match your model.
Throw out.
Yes, sir. Mitchell from Australia did it live, bro. He took a compass.
True south.
Hold on, bro. Let me respond. Let me respond. He took a compass, okay, according to the map made by your sun position. Okay, he took a compass and showed that it was between 11 and 12 degrees off. That it was actually further to the left. Okay, so your map. Let me finish, bro. You ain't got to interrupt the whole time. Even SunCalc said that it's gonna rise at 0 degrees. It was on the equinox, okay? And then he took his compass and it was between 11 and 12 degrees off. So even SunCalc, your maps, everything is telling you that it's rising 0 degrees at the equinox, but according to the compass, it's between 11 and 12 degrees to the left. So it's right where it should be, according to the AE map.
I love it, Brian. Absolutely brilliant. Now throw out the fucking compass and let's use true direction. True direction. True north, true south. Fuck the compass. Throw it away. True north, true south. That is it. True north, true south. Throw out the compass. True north, true south. Now we've got something to baseline shit off that isn't affected by magnetism. So now we've got the true direction sorted. Let me go back to my question and ask it in exactly the same way. So this would be the path of the sun from the observer that matches their reality, right? This is the circular path motion of the sun round a flat earth. Is there anything that you can suggest to me so that I can reconcile these huge, quite apparent, blatant differences?
Using a globe model to reconcile where the sun is supposed to be. Okay, like I said, everywhere in the southern hemisphere has magnetic declination. So SunCalc will tell you, hey, I'm looking 0 degrees. But then you pull out a compass and you realize that 0 degrees is actually between 10 and 20 degrees left, or even up to like 100 and even up to 179 degrees. So at some places you got to turn around exactly because the sun is made to. That's how you made your map and model. So you're asking me to make a flat Earth map match your globe model, and that's not reality, bro.
Again, Brian, throw out the fucking compass and magnetic variance. It is unreliable and it is changing. Let us throw it out and let's use true direction. Say it with me, Brian. True direction, true north, true south. Can you say
how do you know how do you know where you're at? Let's say you're in Sydney, Australia. How do you know what true north is if you're not going to use a compass?
And how do you know what true east and true west is past equinox? I mean, east and west would be based off of where the sun rises and sets for your particular location at equinox. So the only thing about whether the sun rises due east or due west or southeast or southwest is where the sun is rising relative to your location versus where it rises during equinox. That's the only thing that's applicable here.
Exactly. And if it doesn't match your observation, they just include magnetic declination. But the point is, we don't need to use a flat Earth model to match your globe model because it's not going to match. So
forget the globe model. Here's my question simplified again, and I'll even grant you the magnetic variance of 10 to 15 degrees. How the fuck do I match this observer and what they see to what you're claiming this bullshit is? How do I do that? 15 degrees is not going to cut it.
Hold on. Put the sun 6,000 miles away, right? And then move it 15 degrees to the left, and that's where it is. That's in reality.
Say that again, Brian.
15 degrees to the left, and that's where it is.
Put the focal point 6,000 miles away. Okay, so
focal point. What do you mean focal
point? Top of this focal point. So where's the sun in reality?
The sun is a focal point. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Of what?
Of light.
Where's the light come from?
It comes from the heavens.
Where?
God knows. God knows. I know. I'm stepping on your sun worship here.
You're making up shit. That's what you're doing.
I know it's against your sun religion. Look,
Well,
it showed the
paid
thing.
NASA
So it's a
shell.
story. It's as good as your story, pal.
You're making up shit, man.
Paid NASA shell. The maps are off anyway because they're missing key areas in the south and
No,
the
they're
north.
not.
Whatever
No.
we call the North Pole is some arbitrary point on the map that misses
Yeah, it
key
is.
sections
But
in the north
it's not
anyway.
extremely
So the maps are
arbitrary
going to be
point, though.
off. The declination is going to be off. The directions are going to be off. Like I said, gentlemen, the only way to tell true west and east is where the sun rises and sets at equinox for your particular location. That's the only way to tell. And the sun
hold
would
on.
migrate
Actually, Lemon,
towards
the north and south poles are not.
Hold on.
throughout the year. That's all.
The north and south poles are not arbitrary points. You complete and total fucktard.
Super chat time.
They're arbitrary if you're not haven't actually gone to the North Pole. If you're missing key sections in the north, you don't have a true North Pole. You only have a true North Pole if you have all the areas. Sorry.
I want to know from Lemon, how do I verify the day I observed to be equinox is indeed equinox? Maybe I'm a day off.
You're talking about epistemology. I don't handle epistemology
Wait,
questions. That's like saying, how do I know that truth is truth? Or how do I know that this is this? I have faith that it's the case. Because you have to
I don't want to say shut the fuck up, everybody, but I'm saying super chat time. Instead of saying shut the fuck up, guys, I'm saying super chat time to see if you guys get the hint. Okay, Truth Nurse for 5 euros. Thank you very much, Truth Nurse. I appreciate that. Brian, please provide a citation for Suncalc saying that it rises at 0 degrees. So you know that will be due north 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, and 270 degrees. That's northeast, south, and west.
That's on the equinox, and yeah, it's off by between 11 and 12 degrees. Like I said, Mitchell from Australia did a live stream he used SunCalc and another app, and you know, the equinox, it's supposed to rise due east, and it was off from what the compass said. And then I took a look around in the southern hemisphere, and I seen declinations all the way up to 179 degrees. So some places, like close to the South Pole, you have to turn around 179 degrees to see your true location to get the sun working right. But
Brian, you were a Boy Scout.
everywhere. It's a globe model. It's a fine model. I give y'all that. Okay, but you can't compare a flat Earth model to a incomplete flat Earth model and expect it to match a globe model. But everything about the map, you have your converging longitude lines in the south. Okay, the globe matches a map in the northern hemisphere, but in the south you have diverging lines compared to converging lines. So the question is the distances. So, you know, something made me think, you know, I bet you the world record times of the yacht races, the great yacht races, will be different. I bet you they'll be slower in the south. And what did I come up with? The world record 24-hour leg for the monohull yachts is off by over 100 miles. It's grossly inaccurate, and that dates back from 1996 when they first started recording the times. And I went ahead and went with the 24-hour world record, so it ain't just some anomalous few-hour run, and it's over a long span of time. You know, so I'd like an explanation of why the world record time in the Southern Hemisphere race wouldn't even make it barely over halfway in the race in the Northern Hemisphere.
Well, obviously,
Lemon, please. I got a quote I must read over here. Brian Leake, did you say this is a quote that you just said just a few minutes ago? This one is by RT96 for $5, and I quote: "I know I'm stepping on your religion, but God did it." Leake 2022. Shout out to Brian Leake.
Shout out, man.
Guys.
So Lemon, I still don't know how do I know? I don't have calendar. I don't have I don't know nothing. I just want to find through east and west. How do I do it?
$55 people watching. Please hit that like. Super chat, PayPal, join Discord, share the show, support. This is a big party every time the boom is on. I'm having fun. We're gonna let it run another maybe hour or shy of an hour more. So we're here. Have fun, everybody. Boom.
No answer, Lemon?
Brian, you said so much wrong stuff in that last little rant of yours. I don't even know where to begin.
Good point.
So, gentlemen, unless you're talking
I'm
about where
wrong.
the sun rises in Australia in the south at equinox and how the sun migrates to the left and right of that point, what you're saying is kind of irrelevant. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I didn't say anything. I follow what you said. You said first you need to find where true east and west is, and you do it during equinox. So how do I do it? Because I don't have a calendar and I don't fucking know what day is it. So how
Well,
do I
you're going to need a
verify?
baseline of data to
How
figure
do I
out what
verify
equinox is.
that where true east and west is?
Equinox, Chaiki, is when the
But I
sun
don't have a
the day and night is
calendar.
either equal
I
or
don't.
when you have the most equality between the two halves of day. It may vary from absolutely 12 hours for day,
I don't have a
12 hours
clock.
for night, depending on your location.
I
But
don't
it
have a
is the
clock.
most equal part of day and night for your particular location in your part of the hemiplane.
I don't have a clock. Certainly not an accurate one. So I don't
You're
know.
you're doing epistemology questions, Chaiki. I really don't
No,
care.
because
There's no way to know that truth is truth. It's all
No, Lemon,
relativity.
because he's
We have
showing
no
you you're
data,
full of
I do it
shit.
whatever.
because I do it very easily, and I don't need equinox. I just search for the center point of the rotation of the star, and I point a line there, and 90 degrees from there, that's east and west. I guarantee you at equinox. I don't need to
Brian,
wait for the day.
I got a quick point for Brian. Brian, so to recap on the information about the degrees on the sun, calc, you got no citation for the calc saying it's 0 degrees, right? Thanks, Brian. Shout out to Truth Dirts for the 2 super chat.
Yeah. Sun calc on the equinox says 0 degrees. Yeah, for
But you don't have
everywhere.
a citation. You don't have an evidence to show to provide, right? No citation.
You want me to post sun calc? Is that person in contention that in Australia the sun is supposed to rise 0 degrees due east on the equinox?
0 degrees due east. It's 90 degrees.
I would like a citation for that, for it not rising due east.
Crikey, you're telling due east and west based off of the field of stars. True east and west is decided by the sun and its path. So we have two ways to determine east and west and what true east and west is. One based off of the position of the sun overhead over the flat plane, and Crikey's idealized star chart, where he's going 90 degrees from the highest star, or whatever the hell he's trying to do. Several ways to do the same thing, but you're going to get slightly different results based off of that. So Crikey, based off of the solar activity, where the sun rises and sets at equinox, however you want to determine that, would be your true east-west, and the sun would migrate to the left and right of that throughout the year. That is
Prove me
all.
I'm wrong. Find the direction of the center of rotation of the stars and show me that during equinox, it does not point 90 degrees from that, does not point east and west.
But Chaiki, the problem with that is the star field could be higher than the sun. At that point, you would get a different east-west than you would based off of the sun's path because they're at differing heights and you can see them for differing amounts of time in your visual field. In general, Chaiki, higher objects like the star field are able to be seen longer than shorter objects that are closer, like the sun. And so the sun would disappear before you could determine east-west way sooner than the stars would disappear, and you would get a different east-west based off of that, one would assume.
So I want to true or false. So the sun east to west change from day to day depending on where the sun is.
East-west is the circle that follows the path of the sun. East and west is determined by the sun and its path.
So east to west changes from day to day, depends on where the sun is.
Yes, depending on where it is between the tropics. Now that's if you're going to base it off of the sun. Otherwise, you don't have an east-west cardinal point direction that you can point to, like east and west is over there. It's a generalized direction based off of the activity of the sun and where it goes, the circle of the sun. So true east-west would be where it's directly overhead over the flat plane between the tropics if you want it to be technical. That's why I said the only way to determine your particular location is where it rises and sets on the horizon at equinox. And it would migrate a little bit closer to the north and or a little bit closer to the south to the left and right of that point throughout the year.
Wait. During equinox, when the sun is above you, how do you know where east and west is? It can be any direction.
I don't do epistemology questions, Shaky.
Epistemology, Lemon. Lemon, and try
I trust
Lemon.
from this
No, no,
only
no.
science.
Lemon,
Some of
and
this only
please
science I
please
reapply towards
try
something flat.
not
I
to
don't do
speak 5
epistemology
minutes
questions where you're
every
like,
time
how can you tell
someone
this?
asks you a
How can you
question.
tell that? Some
No,
of this
I
stuff
won't
I
let
just
you
take
talk
and
now,
accept.
Lemon. No, you can't talk 5 minutes every time someone asks you a question. Be brief.
But you're asking epistemology questions.
No, you
know
said
and I
it.
know how to determine where
just
equinox
fucking
is.
said it. You just
You're
fucking
asking
said it.
epistemology
East and
questions like,
west
what's the nature
is
of
where the
knowledge?
sun is.
How do you
When
know
the sun,
this stuff? That
when
wastes
it's
time.
right
Shaky.
above you during equinox. What the hell, Lemon?
What? What did he say? What?
What you
Repeat
said.
that.
You said east and west is where the sun is when during equinox is straight above you. You said it.
I didn't say
You don't
anything
even know
about it
what to
straight
say.
above you. You added that, Chaiki. I did not say that. You did.
So
I
where
said
is
the
east
only
and
way
west?
to determine due east-west for your particular location on the flat plane is where the sun rises and sets at equinox. Now, I said if you want to get actual cardinal directions that are worth a damn, I said at noon, Chaiki, which is probably where you got overhead. That's where you'd need to draw north and south at noon when the sun is closest to you, and east-west would be the sun's position over the flat plane in the tropics. That would be true east-west. Otherwise, you're going to get a varying east-west based off of your star field that's at a different height, based off of, where the sun rises and sets at equinox for your particular location. Your east-west is going to be all over the place depending on how you determine how you're going to draw east and west. But the simplest definition for east and west is the path of the sun over the flat plane. So we need to determine where it is over the flat plane in particular.
The easiest way to define east-west is to know where north is and then go 90 degrees to it. We know this for a long time. I guess you were never a Boy Scout, were you?
But they're not cardinal directions like that.
Yes, they are. North is a cardinal
you still need
direction.
to figure out where the sun is rising and setting for your particular location. That's the problem. It's
We
going to
know
rise
where
and set
north
for your
is,
particular
Lemon. We have a
location
star
in a different
over.
way depending on where you are on the flat plane.
We know where
Lemon,
north is, Lemon. We have a star there.
Yeah, your sun changes through the year. The north is at the same point during the whole year.
Yes, but you're trying to determine
So-
east-west based off of the star field, and the star field
Yeah.
is higher than the sun. The sun appears to be lower than the star field.
No, your star field bullshit is just a bunch of horse shit. The sun is
Obviously, it goes in front of the stars. Most people believe that it goes in front of the stars, so by logical extension,
Oh yeah, it
it's
does
north.
go in front of the stars, but it's still pretty damn. It's not 3,000 miles away, Lemon. It's much, much further.
But you're going to have a problem if you're trying to determine east-west based off of the field of stars, 90 degrees
No,
is your highest
actually,
star,
no.
which is
We don't have to. Again,
east
Lemon.
and west based off of the path of the sun.
Again, Lemon. We have a star pointing right above the North Pole, so you determine where north is, and then you determine where east is based off of north.
But you're going to get two different east based off of the path of the sun, based off of 90 degrees in the star field, based off of where the sun rises and sets at equinox. You have at least three different ways to determine east and west based off of
It
that.
just so happens that at the equinox, the sun rises directly east. Even if you determine it from the stars, it's freaking amazing, isn't it?
So
I love
the only way to
love the equinoxes. It's one of my favorite times of year. It's something I celebrate twice a year, in fact, along with the solstices.
The thing I find funny Lemon, is you're always talking about wanting to get a uniform standard. We have a uniform standard. We can use the North Star to determine north. We could also use the sun to determine north at particular times of the year. But that gives us a uniform standard that we can mark on the ground, etch on the ground in concrete, and it will always be north. It won't change. It won't vary, and it won't vary. And it won't vary. So why is that not as satisfactory? Why are you trying to put in this weird random thing where we're going to try and use the sun?
Well, the way that we're using has to help us answer the question of why these Australians are saying, why is the sun rising due southeast and setting southwest? The only way to answer that question, Moyak, is to see perspective and how it would make the sun behave over a flat plane. And so the only way to deal with that, Moyak, and answer that question is to see how the sun would rise throughout the year for your particular location. So east and west would have to be based off of where the sun rises and sets at equinox only. That's the only metric that's going to help us solve this question. That would be due east or west for your particular location with the vicissitudes of perspective, optics, and all that other stuff. And so based off of that location, you would expect the sun to migrate to the left and or right of that point. That is all. Otherwise, you'd have to get east and west.
Can we just give Lemon points for using the word vicissitude? Because I do love it.
There is no way. There's no way on the flat Earth. There is no way on the flat Earth that the sun can ever go outside the tropics. There's no way if you're south of the Tropic of Capricorn that you can ever see the sun rise to the south. Yet we see it. We also see it in the northern hemisphere. The sun rises north of the Tropic of Cancer. How is that possible, Lemon? It's not on your flat Earth.
After
Unless
you,
you're
Lemon.
bullshit.
Hold on. Let's hear Lemon if you want to answer what Penasa Shield say, and then the Kitsune want to get in there after you, Lemon.
Gracias.
Or if you don't want to answer Penasa Shield, then the Kitsune. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, it's a quick question or request for Lemonbird. I'd like to see diagrams of everything you're describing. Maybe we can understand how it works better.
Yeah, that's going to.
You asking Lemon for models?
No, just diagrams, little drawings. Something
better than that. I'm about to post a model, a flat Earth working model, okay, and it works for all the planets, for the moon, for the sun, for 360 days a year. I'm going to post it real quick and
yes.
And
let's see that. Yeah, I want to see this. This is going to be epic.
Does it include the celestial pole?
I'll share. No, let's see what he got, and then you guys can,
Yeah, let's see it.
You can.
Because it works for all the planets too, apparently.
Yeah, it's good.
My guess is it's Walter Bislin's personal dome.
Yeah, if you want to share it on the Daily Boom Sensor, we'll share that and we'll
But
see.
that means all the other planets are real planets.
Yeah. No, we got to read on the fine letters. We got to know where this model came from. On what the person.
Ron said it works for all the other planets. So.
He meant the focal points.
All right, I'll put it in the chat. Moyak, you've seen the way the sun appears to pass through 4 different quadrants depending on how you draw your angles to the sun. So depending on how you draw east and west, you're going to get totally different interpretations of what southeast or southwest is for rising and setting purposes. Let me know if you guys can see it in the chat.
We have a Lemonbird model right here. Let me share that for YouTube. And then while we will touch into this while Brian Mabbott find his model and he share it with us. I'll share my screen and I'll share that for YouTube.
Why are the two tropics different sizes when we know they're not?
We know the tropics are different sizes depending on which model we agree on. If you're going to go with the globe by necessity, the tropics need to be equal.
I'm going by reality. The tropics of Cancer and Capricorn are the same size.
Did you go in a circle to verify that, or are you trusting what you heard?
It's the genetic fallacy. I have to go and do it myself, do I? Okay.
We all have to have faith in something. I'm saying your faith is misplaced because you didn't circle the tropics yourself to double check that.
Well, neither did you.
Okay, but
This
I want
graphic
to
illustrate.
There you go. So the audience know this is a model shared by Lemonbird, I think drawn by yourself, and that's good. Thank you. It's more than we have had for many years. A lot of people just refuse to even give this information. While we're waiting on Brian Leake to share a link or page or whatever it is, we got this right here.
Well, this graphic illustrates how the sun can circle east to west over the southern tropics, yet appear to be north of due east according to compass reading, at least north of due east anyway.
So
east to west be read as a straight line on the compass.
Hold on, Lemon. I'm sorry, I apologize, Lemon. Penasa Shield, I will hate to serve and mute people. Lemonbird is the first time in a long time that a flat earther want to present a model, and he's trying to explain some things. Please, let's not interrupt. Please, guys, you were not the only one. Somebody else already also spoke. So let's not interrupt Lemonbird, and then we'll get Brian Leake on board. Go ahead, Lemon.
East to west would be read as a straight line on a compass, while the sun would move east-west in a circle overhead that would move in front of and behind the line. Notice how you have that bullseye on that drawing there. That bullseye is how we would like to draw north, south, east, west, and west in straight lines that go off infinitely into different directions. But east-west follows the circle of the sun as it circles in and out of those quadrants. This is centered on an observer in the North Pole. You have a little person there in the middle of the drawing. His name's FD was a Discord user who comes in and out of the server. So I was saying FD, that's you in the North Pole. You're drawing north-south from your particular location is a line that goes straight to you, more or less at noon, basically. And east-west is lines that go off infinitely left and right, 90 degrees in opposition to that, but that's incorrect. The sun circles overhead between those tropics. Those circles, you got the Tropic of Cancer, which is a little closer to the center, the Tropic of Capricorn, which is a little further out, and within that circling zone, the sun can circle in and out of any of those quadrants, and you could go with the sun being northeast, southeast, southwest, or northwest, based off of where it's circling within those arbitrary quadrants that you draw. So, gentlemen, you need to draw a quadrant at noon to get a north-south position and an idealized east-west, quadrant, and then you can see where the sun is circling from there, and it will appear to dip down toward the horizon based off of the vicissitudes, SAT words, perspective based off of your particular location. And in the south, I suspect that we even have negative refraction and the sun going through thicker air layers down there, leading to warping and weird distorting effects. So we need to draw north, south, east, west in some sort of significant fashion to see where the sun is circling in and out of, gentlemen.
Wait, guys. I want to thank you all the panelists and Lemonbird for presenting and everybody for being quiet. Now, we're going to do this a little different because Brian Leake also shared a YouTube link for the model that he proposed. So let's take a look at this one. We'll let Brian Leake talk to us. I don't know. Let me open it and see what we got. Screen sharing in case you want to see it in real time.
It's a 4.5-year-old.
Hold on. Hold on. I'm on it. I'm gonna share this.
Hey, I'm at the DMV, man. I need a minute.
This is an FP4 presents. I'm gonna be scrolling a tiny bit here, a tiny bit there, and then whenever you're ready, you come back and tell us. So, guys, if you wanna talk about Lemonbird's model, go ahead.
Well, the interesting thing is I've actually seen the video Brian's put up, and I've obviously seen the diagram that Lemon puts up. And one of the things in about the first if I remember, the first 5 or 10 minutes, it actually says the kind of model that Lemon's putting up is completely wrong. So we've obviously got to, we need to make sure that Brian and Lemon, as both flat earthers, can some sort of concord on their view of the flat earth, because obviously both of them can't be right.
Well, what's wrong about it? The only thing that informs the discussion is you pointing out the error and what could be better about it. So what's wrong about it exactly?
Well, no, I'm just saying that the point put up by Brian's video and the point that you're making are in direct conflict. That's the point.
In what way? Please use your words, not rhetoric.
I'm just looking at this kaleidoscopic bullshit that is being presented here.
Yeah. So one of the things in the video there is the problem of that east-west issue in the equinox, and the fact that they agree that everybody is looking in the same direction eastwards to see the rising sun coming up in its equinoctial position, where obviously your model doesn't allow for that.
If the sun is circling overhead, your particular east will be different from someone's particular east based off of where the sun appears to pop out of the horizon due to the vicissitudes of perspective in their local area. So what you're saying is trivial. You will see the sun when it pops out of the horizon based off of your local area anyway. So what you're saying doesn't really help us solve the problem when you imply that east is one direction that we're all looking at the same time, when time zones are a thing, and east locally for you will have to wait until when the sun finally circles around due to your local time, with the local, problems, if you will.
Not to mention, Lemon,
of perspective. So what you're saying is just trivial.
Not to mention that anywhere you look east on a globe converges to the equator on a globe. So.
Well, no, Brian. I mean, if you look at that in the video that you posted, they actually say that if you move north and south on a single line of longitude, then we're all looking in the same direction. And this is one of the things that is reconciled in the model that you're putting forward. I'm sure you must have watched the video yourself. I watched it about 3 weeks ago because I found it quite amusing. So again, what you said, Lemon, is directly opposed to what Brian's model is sort of stating.
Well, we agree on the flatness. I guess we could work this stuff out later with the different things of his model versus my model. But basically, you would see east-west locally based off of when the sun finally circles around to your local time zone, implying that east-west is just its position that we all look at or something like that. The way the Globers are saying, it's just meaningless. It's just wrong. I mean, the sun's circling overhead. You have to wait till the sun circles around to your particular location, and based off of how wide of a visual field you have on the sun, moon, and stars, you're going to get a different field with different visual behavior in your local area, and the sun will rise and set toward the horizon differently in your area. So the only meaningful way to treat this is figure out where for you, the sun rises and sets at equinox, and see how it migrates to the left and right of that point throughout the year. That's all you can do.
Why
So
does
you're
it
saying
go?
that if one second, I just want last question, and I'm gonna hand over the mic. So you're saying that if I was in Cape Town and then I could suddenly transport to say somewhere like Paris or Luxembourg, then obviously I'd have a very different view and a different rising time of the sun. Is that kind of what you're telling me?
It would be different for your local horizon versus theirs. Yes.
So different rising time of the sun, different rising position.
Yes, based off of your local area.
Do you want to think about that before you give a snap answer? Considering I've just given 2 locations where the sun rises at the same time.
I don't do rhetoric. I do direct.
I'm not doing rhetoric. I'm showing the vicissitude of your argument, the fact that it changes and morphs and flexes rather
I'm not
than
hearing
being
anything
consistent.
about
Now, that is the correct use of the word vicissitude, unlike the way you
I
used
don't
it.
play games.
I'm not playing a game.
Directly state what you're talking about.
I'm
for
talking
Christ's
about
sake, Lemon, that's all you do is play games. Knock it off.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't
basically,
do
the
rhetoric. I don't
rising
have
time
Yes,
of
you
Cape
do.
Town.
What are you trying to say?
Your arguments are nothing
sunrise-
but rhetoric, Lemon. You have no proof.
The sunrise for Cape Town and the sunrise for Paris is pretty much the same. A little bit of difference, tiny bit, because
When you factor in time zones, sure, but there is going to be a local variation because the sun has to circle around.
They're in the same time zone. That's why I chose them. Didn't you realise that Cape Town and Paris are in the same time zone?
What position on the horizon does it rise for Cape Town versus the other place? That
The
would
same
vary.
on the equinox.
On the equinox, what about the rest of the year?
I'm just talking about the equinox because that is something I'm horribly familiar with.
So, the position of the sun in the local area would vary.
Not on the equinox. We're looking exactly
You would
the
have
same
to take the section of sky in
constellation. You're
Paris
looking exactly
and
the same
superimpose it
point
onto
of
the
the
section of
sky.
sky in Cape Town.
Yeah, it's exactly the same position. Rising at exactly the same time, both people seeing exactly the same thing.
At equinox, what about the rest of the year?
As I say, I'm not sure about the rest of the year. I'm not going to make a comment on that. I'm horribly familiar with that.
We need to get a full range of data.
And the constellation behind it when it rises. I'm going to actually now postulate that the constellation behind the sunrise all throughout the year is going to be consistent for both observation points. Now, I don't know that for a fact, but I do know for a fact because I have friends in both of those locations and we all celebrate certain things in common, that is the case.
To get a full picture of what's going on here, gentlemen, we need to trace the path of the sun, preferably throughout the year when possible, for both locations and compare the curves that are traced in the sky in both locations. One would
we know the
expect
ground position at any given
greater
time, right?
curves when you're directly under the sun's path in the tropics. You would expect much more diverging curves away from that zone. Now, how these curves diverge throughout the year as the sun migrates to the left and right of wherever the hell it rises on the horizon for your particular location, we'll have to look into that. But to get a full picture of why the sun rises south of east or south of west or what the F ever, we need to get a baseline direction of where it rises at equinox for the particular location and see how, if at all, it migrates to the left and right of that position throughout the year with the curve of the sun's path for that particular location. What I suspect is happening toward the south, if anything, is perspective warping, where you're getting some sort of weird reverse refraction effect because the sun is traveling greater distance and through greater air columns and greater air. But I would need to
I give up the mic to other people now, and I do appreciate the people's patience by my short statements that I've been making.
At equinox, on the horizon, at sunrise and sunset, I'm done.
Boom.
All right.
Is there? Oh.
Just one thing to point out real quick. Anybody who's had a sundial lay flat anywhere on the ground, anywhere on the surface of the Earth, doesn't matter where it is, north of the equator or south of the equator, the path that the shadow traces on that sundial are always hyperbolas everywhere on Earth.
I
You
need
should know
30
what that
seconds.
means, Lemon.
I need 30 seconds. 30 seconds for a super chat that just came in, and I want to appreciate it. I'm sorry, guys. I mean, we got the super chats are back. We got 1,000 subscribers. We got everything. YouTube accepted my monetization quickly, and I thank you guys, everybody, for being part of it. So it's going to be a little bit annoying every once in a while. I'll pop in for a super chat, but we're doing good. You know, I appreciate the support. I really do. This time, no name with a $2 super chat at Lemon Say, unquote, inconceivable excitedly. Shout out to No Name. Thank you for the super chat.
I'd like to try and get in here. Lemon, the cardinal directions are independent of whatever the sun does. I don't understand how you keep on trying to adjust your compass based upon what the sun is doing.
Well, if you're saying that they're independent, that's kind of like the same as saying north, south, east, west are actual directions. They're generalized directions based off of generalizable activity. The north appears to be a generalizable center in the flat earth conception. East, west is a generalizable path that follows the sun, moon, and stars as they circle in a certain direction. South appears to be away from that generalizable direction in the north, outward. So that's the only north, south, east, west that you can get. So the way that you trace it, sir, as an idealized bullseye versus actually following the path of the sun, moon, and stars, it's going to vary your conclusions at that point.
Right. So essentially what I did in my image, there is a consistent compass that's in Chile, and there's a consistent place where that sun goes over the surface of the earth. That is predictable. We know exactly what spot of land it'll be directly over at any given time. Are you saying that we have no idea where that place is in relationship to Chile?
It will vary depending on your particular location. Chile's
Always
will look
north.
a little different based off of the horizon in your field of view versus another place. So we
On a
need to
flat Earth?
see whether it's migrating north and south relative to where it's rising at equinox for that particular point, for
On a
that
flat
particular
Earth
location.
conception, it will always be north of Chile. It will always be circling north of Chile.
Yeah, so to figure out where the sun actually is, you need to take these readings at noon, where the sun tends to be closest to you in all conceptions anyway, and where it would tend to take its most, accurate position. And then at noon, trace this quadrant, and you're going to see where the sun actually is, north, south, east, west of you, relative to those quadrants that you draw.
I would have to ask somebody, but I would believe that that's north of me in Chile.
Chile is kind of close to the equator, around there, I believe. I'm
It's
sorry,
far
not
south
Chile,
of the
Colombia.
tropics.
So you're saying it's south of where the sun would be based off of the Tropic of Capricorn, depending on
south,
whether you're in the north or the south of Chile. Chile's pretty big country.
Yeah, so we got it way the fuck down. I'm actually in the tip of Chile, down at the very southern tip where where my picture was taken from. And the sun rises at what does my image say there? 230 degrees? I don't remember. Oh no, it rises at crap. Gotta zoom in.
We got to compare these hourglass curves, gentlemen. These hyperbolic curves, and see where they trace for particular locations. I would expect a tighter hourglass for the equator, and a looser, wider, more diverging hourglass away from the equatorial tropics.
What
The way that I see it on my image, I
When
show
you
that
trace
it
the
should rise.
hyperbola for the sun's path north to south, it curves up and curves down in a
Could you have a
hyperbola
conversation,
that looks like an hourglass. Somebody interrupted you, Moyak. I apologize. Did you hear somebody else say what hourglass? I was trying to be specific.
All right. Well, the way I see it with our knowledge of the ground position, I should see the sun rise at 23 degrees. And yet I see it rise at 133 degrees. That's what possible refraction condition do you think could move the sun 110 degrees off from where it's supposed to be?
Okay, so you're saying
laterally.
So you're trying to draw a north, south, east, west quadrant with, I guess due east being, I guess would be 90 degrees to the right or something. Well, you say it rises at 130, so the closest quadrant to there would be like 180 to 270. So you got a 180 to 270 degree quadrant where the sun for you is rising 130 degrees or something like that. Is
Well,
that
the
what you said?
closest quadrant to that would be in between 90 and 180.
I just a quick comment, Lemon, for you. Master Kalik and myself, we know that you are a very talented person, Lemon Bird. So
You're correct. I'm sorry. My math is just terrible. I'm sorry.
hold on, Lemon. Hold on, really quick. Just want to read this. Master Kalik in chat and myself, we know that you are a very talented person, Lemon Bird. So Master Kalik gave me a $1.99 super chat saying, Lemon Bird, stop wasting your talents on flat Earth. Shout out to Master Kalik.
Well, it helps to get people that are a bit more artistic in on these problems. We have people like Miles Mathis, a gifted artist, who has supposedly solved some of physics' biggest problems with, a much more, I would say, creative, right-brained approach to this stuff. Some of our best great minds are a little myopic, gentlemen. They're very gifted, they're very smart, but they don't approach the problem correctly. They don't integrate enough information, enough vision, enough perspective, enough creativity, and that's where some of the outsiders that are even artists or creative or whatever can come in and solve some of this problem. But back to what you were saying, Moyak, is between 90 and 180. Thank you. And so I would say that it's some sort of perspective warping beyond that point. But like I said, Moyak, at noon, that you would see the sun north of you at noon. And then you'd have to call the quadrants, if you will, at noon to see where the sun is circling in and out of. Now, like you said, it's rising at 130, so you would expect it, I guess, from 0 to 90. But I say that in the South, it's probably some sort of perspective warping refraction effect, just like that Spanish dude did with his little glass over the concentric circles. Same with the sun or something. That's what I would say, or something perspective related.
Oh, okay. So warping, we do see that, almost all atmospheric effects seem to be just in the vertical axis. I'm very confused as to where you think that we can suddenly get a horizontal axis, and not only that, but an insanely large horizontal number of about 100 degrees. I should be able to watch the sunrise and sunset with my P1000 set with a 60-degree field of view. I should be able to watch sunrise and sunset without ever moving the camera by pointing my camera north.
So all you can do, Moyak, from there is the second way to do east-west, which is where it rises and sets at equinox. Once you get that point on the horizon, you would expect the sun to migrate to the left and or right of that point, with equinox defining true east and west for your particular location, without taking into account the warping of the sun, which appears to hyperbolically warp this way or that way due to refraction or the problems of perspective. So you would need to get east-west at equinox in a different way and see the sun migrate left or right of that point, north or south for your particular location. Now, since you're south, I would expect you to see the sun rise at equinox at a particular location and migrate, I don't know, to the right further southward, and then further northward of that equinox point, at other point times of the year. So that would be the most valuable metric to determine east and west based off of perspective, negative refraction, or whatever.
Oh, that's an awful lot of words to say absolutely nothing, so I'm going to bow out.
I gave you instructions. Take the position that the sun rises and sets at equinox. See how the sun migrates as it rises and sets to the left and the right of that point throughout the year, and that will give you a true north-south for your particular.
It actually won't.
No, I mean, it's the other way around. I've told you how you find it.
From
hold on one moment.
From Polaris and the southern one. Can't remember the name.
There's a tiny truth nugget in all of that, which is at equinox, the sun rises to the east for everyone everywhere and sets to the west for everyone everywhere, almost directly, right on equinox.
But that's trivial.
That's kind of a problem. Yeah, that's kind of a problem for a flat Earth. But if we go with that, then we know that the 180-degree separation that we experience at sunrise and sunset during those times does give us which direction north and south would be, no problem.
But what you're saying is trivial and definitional. How do we define east and west? It follows the path of the sun anyway. So saying that the sun rises and sets due east when east and west is defined by the sun anyway becomes a trivial tautological fact. The question is, how does it migrate throughout the year relative to where it rises and sets at equinox to determine what is actually north and south of what versus how the sun appears to warp hyperbolically toward the north and the south because of perspective, refraction, or whatever? Because in Moyak's location, the sun would take on a more northerly aspect toward noon and warp back toward the south, toward the evening and the morning. Why does that happen? Either it's because of warping or refraction or some sort of perspective effect, or they try to take these hyperbolic curves and superimpose them onto a ball. So we have two different ways to explain the same phenomenon, but we have a problem when it rises for Moyak south of 90 degrees due east in its idealized cardinal point north, south, east, west schema, migrate toward the north toward noon where it takes on its true position and warp back toward the south if you go with 270 degrees being due west in his idealized north, south, east, west bullet sign crosshair cardinal point schema. He needs to follow the path of the sun and see whether perspective is warping the image, negative refraction is warping the image, glass, firmament, whatever.
Or maybe,
I get you would like to.
there's a chance.
Hold on, I get that you would
Hold
like
on,
to hog the
I
mic
almost
time.
finished. Or maybe, Lemon, the sun is really where we sit.
Right. So the thing that I need to mention, because I mentioned it once before, when the shadow that's traced on a sundial that's lying flat on the ground traces out a hyperbola on any location on the Earth at different points in the year, what that means is that the sun cannot be shown to be circling in a plane parallel to the ground. It doesn't make sense on a flat Earth.
With the vicissitudes of perspective and negative refraction and refraction period, I beg to differ.
There's no such thing as negative refraction.
Negative refraction.
You just basically
different
made a
materials.
bunch of stuff, and you think you can
I'm
propose that as a viable alternative to reality?
I will let you speak, Ali K, in a second. I'm speaking about
It's
things
not
that you're
up
not
to you.
familiar with, and you distrust me.
Shit.
That's fine. But negative refraction is a thing with differing materials. You can plug it in YouTube right now and see that it's a thing.
But that
There's
would only
every
work in
refraction
an up-down
is greater
direction.
than one. What are you talking about? Except for a vacuum, of course, because that is one.
And we have a huge amount of evacuation up there and a firmament dome. So I'm well prepared to go with negative refraction or some sort of other perspective phenomenon, warping the apparent path that Moyak is seeing toward the south in Chile or whatever, Australia or whatever.
You're prepared to go with something that has no it's not verifiable. There's no way to show. There's no way to show some sort of refractive index that's negative or is less than a vacuum.
We already showed that with the Spanish dude. The path underneath the hemispheric glass dome that he showed warps that way and warps the opposite way. Negative refraction right there. Why can't you guys make these freaking connections?
That's not negative refraction.
And different materials have negative refraction. Different metals, different materials. Who knows how that thing's constructed? Like I said, refraction, perspective, something warping the apparent path that Moyak sees. But to get the true path, at noon, Moyak needs to call the quadrant and see how the sun circles in and out of those quadrants. From there, it's probably hyperbolically warping due to refraction, perspective, or some sort of other phenomenon.
Can you explain? I got need to do anything you do. It's your claims.
I got a quick Lemonbird elaboration. Can you describe how the sun's warp drive works, please?
Well, like I said, I could do the same thing that you guys do, gentlemen, and get the same observations that you do. The question is the interpretation. Based off of the Spanish guy's video where he shows it warping this way and that way, I'm perfectly fine going with that.
Right,
I mean, it still would not be possible. It still would not be possible if you're south of the Tropic of Capricorn to see the sun rise to the south. Just like in the north, it's impossible in most places in the United States to see the sun rise north of the Tropic of Cancer, yet we see it all the time. This is not possible on your flat Earth model, no matter how you cut it.
Well, in the Spanish dude's video, it should be impossible for those circles to warp up and down like that. They should, like you guys are implying, take on its true geometric aspect and only go in the direction that it's drawn on the paper. But it doesn't. It warps this way and it warps that way.
What the hell are you
if that
talking
can happen in that video, I'm perfectly fine applying that to Moyak's problem with the sun actually being in north as in more toward the intersection of the flat plate.
What the hell are you talking about?
But taking on a warped path that he interprets as going from southeast to southwest or whatever the heck.
What the hell are you talking about, Lemon?
Well, hold on. Peyton asked the show.
I showed multiple times. I'll show it again. I showed it to you.
Hold on. Just 1 second. Peyton asked the show. If you look in the chat, I just posted something not too long ago that Terman had made, I believe, that shows you're looking through the glass dome. You're looking through the curved part first and then the flat part. This is an upside down dome, and this is what Lemon is anticipating the stars are being viewed through.
Oh, you mean a big piece of glass again?
Well, yeah, but it's the fact that he's looking at the curved surface first. If you look at the video that he shared for that, the dome, he's looking at it upside down.
Yeah, so we know where glass can distort lines. What's the point here, Lemon?
He's saying that the dome,
there it is.
The cosmic dome, is what causes this.
No, because this guy does not show the stars circling around the point. Doesn't. And lines, not points.
And so Mr. Moyak is seeing the path of the sun, which is circular overhead, warped and distorted by refraction, glass, perspective, something to that effect. But it's actually circling overhead.
Oh, fuck,
circling
you posting this piece of shit again, Lemon?
For Moyak, who is in the outer southern section.
So, Lemon, you're posting this big piece of shit with a big ass glass lens that we don't see, that we can't find, that reflect, that doesn't. It's perfectly invisible except for visible light. That's up there, right?
We got the sun dogs, parhelions, different things.
Sun dogs are because of ice crystals.
No, that explanation is bogus.
Sun dogs are because of ice crystals, Lemon. You only see them when it's really, really cold.
Peyton asked the show, just 1 moment. Just take a look at that thumbnail of the video that he posted. The dome is upside down. He's looking through the curved part first. And in addition to that, I just posted just now an animation which shows what would happen to the stars if they actually passed through that, which is they would keep going in the same direction. They don't circle at a particular point.
I know. He's got so many problems with this that he can't help it, but he has to post it because it's the only piece of shit he's got.
We have
enough problem with those examples. The other problem with those examples is you would actually be in the videos, you're observing it from, say, God's point of view and not from the surface.
We're on the surface right now.
Down.
The thing is, we have a limited perspective before things dip into the horizon, number one. Number two, we have the thick atmosphere and the thick glass warping and distorting the image like Moyak's sun, which he takes the north, south, east, west, Cartesian quadrant for, and assumes that it's coming 130 degrees from southeast, and that takes on some sort of geometric dimension that it doesn't actually do. It's just warping, hyperbolic warping based off of atmosphere, glass, and perspective. That's it.
10 seconds, I need.
I want you to know
10 seconds. NASA, 10 seconds, I need. John Rapp with $2 Australian. Thanks, mate. Oh, and Polaris is fake. Shout out to John Rapp. Continue.
It's funny. The other thing I see with that little dome there is all I see is stars smearing and shifting out of position, which is something that's the antithesis of what we see with stars.
Yeah, look, notice how it kind of curves up if you go to the edge of that glass. It's kind of like it's coming down and curving up further over to the right up and kind of curving up and down kind of closer to the center. You can kind of see the warping, distorting effect right there. So, Moyak, that's why for you it appears to be the opposite of where it is. You're Chile, so you're probably over further to the right, and you see the sun's path, which is actually circling overhead, warping and distorting and taking on the opposite aspect of what it's actually doing.
What does warping and distorting mean for you? Because warping and distorting for me would be a change in its angular shape.
Oh, I'm reopening. Sorry.
The GIF is up.
Well, Warping and distorting for you, Mr. Morak, is you say that the sun is north of you, therefore it shouldn't come from any quadrant other than 0 to 90 degrees for you. But it is interpreted by you because of the way that you drew the quadrant and warping in perspective as coming from, 90 degrees to 180 degrees. It's taking on the opposite aspect of what you would expect to do in perfect geometric situations.
In this video, does he ever put the camera on the inside? I mean, because right now, first off, the dome would have to be inverted in order to have this happen. So you'd have to have an upside down dome. But does he ever take the image from the inside of this dome to see what the stars do?
I don't think so. I think people are just exploring the concept currently, generally, just the general.
So we got it doesn't work at all, and it doesn't match what we observe. And
You see my screen share?
Go ahead.
This is a similar thing, but Doofus Manfred, he did a GIF, animated image thing of that.
Yeah, Termin made that, and I gotta go. Thanks.
Thank you, brother.
The other problem with this glass dome example is, if you notice, the angular separation, the distance between those stars is not consistent for the point of the observer, which would actually, in order for celestial navigation to even work, that angular separation has to remain consistent. So either celestial navigation doesn't work or this dome doesn't work.
And it's a concept worth exploring. I think it explains why stuff appears to be rising southeast versus southwest, depending on how you draw the quadrant, and how it's refracting, or basically perspective is making it warp and look opposite of what you would normally expect geometrically.
Well, you know what I think is particularly charming? That Lemon brings this this paperweight over a record disc that doesn't look anything like what anybody sees in the sky, and he says, "This is what we see in the sky." That's the charming part. Now we know that Lemon is just a jokester. He's just in a feedback loop. He gets his little applause time, and he's just fabricating and spinning yarns.
Well, the other issue is that he dug this a bit deeper. So you said much earlier in the stream that you can triangulate, the height of stars, sun, whatever, right? So this locks the actual height of all celestial objects at the exact same height. It is now a locked point. So even with various refractions, so on, so forth, squishing, smushing, twirling, whatever, the geometry is locked into place. The corrections for refraction, which again, the sextant is the absolute worst thing Flat Earth could have ever picked. The corrections for refraction do not match the geometry for Flat Earth at all. So again,
well, refraction is highly theoretical. You need to see what medium you're going from to. You need to talk about refraction at the boundary of media versus inside of the media. Refraction is highly theoretical and how it's applied anyway, so that's not a problem. It just depends on how we apply the refraction that really needs to be talked about, whether it's through glass, through atmosphere, through a dome, whatever, by the shape, by the material. I mean, there's still a lot of stuff to explore here.
The problem is the physical location of the celestial objects is locked. You cannot make an arbitrary correction table and still have it work if it's based off an Earth's radius. So either all the almanacs are all wrong and geometry is all wrong and refraction is all wrong, or your argument is correct. You can't have it both ways.
It's a possibility. Maybe it just missed something. I mean, maybe we just missed a few key things. Maybe we got it good enough, and maybe we could get it a little better, considering a few dome-like things. I'd go with it, but I don't know.
Problem is that with the use of a sextant that has been in use for over 200 years for successful navigation, so you should also be able to put forth a 100% working, accurate map. And I still have yet to find any flat earther that has ever done that.
Our maps are good enough as long as we stay away from the missing land sections in the north and south. In the north, they're missing what appears to be Mount Meru with the four corners leaving from there. And in the south, it appears that there are zones that the satellites don't cover down there too. As long as we stay in our lane and stay in the prescribed mapped areas, we're good. But outside of those areas or toward those areas, that's where the problems tend to become more apparent.
Slight problem is with any flat Earth map that has ever been presented to me by a flat earther, it does not match the geometry for celestial navigation. You end up thousands and thousands of miles off course. So again, it goes back to either celestial navigation is a complete lie and the Earth is flat, or celestial navigation works, and any argument map that's been put forth by the flat Earth community is wrong. Now, as someone who has actually successfully done a geometrically perfect course for flat Earth based off of celestial navigation by totally throwing away the nautical almanac, you then still end up getting stuck into the position of, well, these people are doing this thing in reality and it works, but that's impossible if the Earth is flat.
But you're saying the model works, therefore the model is true, but you need to see which element of the model is actually working. You may just be having one model of many that is good enough, but may not actually be matching reality and true. You're basically trying to say that we can't see the stars because the hump of Earth curvature is in the way and circling away from the star. You can model the obstruction due to perspective without a hump of Earth curvature, making that part of your model unnecessary. And you can model it with a moving star field that revolves over us to instead of the movement of the Earth. So that makes that part of your model unnecessary too. We would just model it over a flat plane with some limit of perspective and some limit of resolvability as you look out over the surface. That's all. The rest of it would be more or less translatable, flat to round or whatever. And it just at that point makes your model kind of irrelevant. You're just trying to explain why we have obstruction. And you're basically trying to map the curve of the sky onto the curve of the ground, despite the lack of curvature that we see. So at this point, I'm going to have to go with another model, or rather another interpretation of the model, take that data and just superimpose it onto a flat surface with perspective.
You still run into some very basic core issues. You guys are looking at the individual puzzle pieces and not the entire puzzle. You fix one thing, you break something else. You fix that broken thing over there, it breaks 3 more other things.
I'm right brain. I can integrate multiple variables quite easily without getting stressed out. I think I'm good. The left brain people is what I'm worrying about. They focus on one variable to the exclusion of all others, and the model just becomes very myopic. It's a mess. But I would go with perspective warping with a rotating star field with ether, a refractive glass dome or something like that, leading to weird warping effect.
I see. I want to see
unicorn parts too.
Yeah, I just want to see a sexy model with a smooth, very sexy walk, but all I see is all kinds of shakiness and wobbliness, Lemon. I don't see the sexiness, it's appeal on it.
Well,
your model loses sex appeal. Their model loses sex appeal right about the time the stars and the sun get to about 20 degrees, and then the timing's all out of whack. They got reasons for it. They got excuses, they won't accept yours, but they have excuses why their own shit doesn't flow like a river.
Well, we're limited people, gentlemen, so no model's going to be perfect. We just need to say why we like this model and why we don't like this model. And the Chaldeans who gave us our star charts and our star fields or whatever, they appear to be geocentric. If not, I would say flat earthers, because they didn't have NASA's CGI, they didn't have warp curving distorting images or warp distorting cameras. They would probably say that it's flat and geocentric, and they're the ones who gave us all of the star charts that astrology is based off of. We just took that data and tried to superimpose it onto a globe model, but the globe model is not really even necessary.
Lemon, look at this. Do you think that this guy is grabbing the moon and putting it in his car's trunk? What do you think about that?
That is a big trunk.
Okay, you went through about 5 minutes saying how you could model it all out. Why is there no flat Earth map?
What about the A.E. Gleason? A flat map would just basically be North Pole in the center with no South Pole with a southern perimeter that expands ever outward. That's basically quote unquote flat.
Not a single part of the Gleason map works for celestial navigation using the nautical almanac.
And by the way,
so you're trying to explain why the stars appear to be blocked after a certain time. You can explain that with perspective. Superimpose perspective onto the flat map with the stars. There you go.
Lemon, I keep hearing from so many others, they don't have a map. They've walked away from having a map. So now that you're saying that the Gleason map is back, okay, well, let's I want somebody with a show your work map. Tell me an app.
Google Maps, bud. Google Maps is a flat Earth map.
Are you kidding?
No, he's serious.
No, I'm not. There's no curvature in Google Maps. It's a flat Earth map. It was based on the Mercator.
Okay, then that is
you have dumbass.
No.
You have demonstrated your lack of comprehension to even entertain the subject.
Well, I think we know enough, gentlemen. I mean, I've seen experts, frankly, be so myopic and closed-minded, they can't even solve the problem properly. So thank God that I'm a humble outsider. Thank God that I'm open enough to outside revelation and different perspectives to where I can actually organically solve the problem. Thank God. Hallelujah.
Please show me the curvature in Google Maps, please.
Yeah, zoom out.
All right, guys. We got to that time that we need to wrap up the show. Brian Leake, I'm running because when you told me to show the curvature on Google Earth, I am scared, so I'm gonna wrap up the show. We're gonna do a final thoughts. I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you everybody for being a part of the Jose JG Boom channel coming back to live. We are looking really good. Average of 50 people watching on the shows out of 1,000 subscribers. That's not bad, you know. It's pretty much what we had before. It's really good. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for the support, the super chats today, big time. Anamorphic Mind, you're a very special person. The first super chat on this channel was $6.66. Big support today. And also PayPal is alive. Everybody, please join Discord. The call, you guys can stay as long as you want here. I'm just going to wrap up the live show on YouTube. Thank you everybody that participated today over here in Discord, and thank you for the fun times. It was really entertaining. I really had fun. Final thoughts. I'm gonna go alphabetical order with everybody, but we are going to do it ascending. What do you say? Order on alphabetics. We're gonna start with the StingRay. Is the first of final thoughts.
Yeah, good show, Jose. I think it's obvious to the audience how many straw men that flat earthers are desperate to create to knock down. Now, I like Brian, but when he keeps trying to saddle magnetic declination, when I say we're just using the stars, it shows you how desperate these people are. And even if we mapped the magnetic lines on the map of the Earth, it makes sense on a sphere. But my God, does it go against all physics on a flat surface? Cheers, Jose.
Cheers, the StingRay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And yes, Anamorphic Mind popped the sherry. We got a final thoughts by Mr. Victory, Mr. Space Cat. He says, "Flat Earthers make kittens angry." Thank you very much. At least they don't make frogs angry, because that will make me mad. We got the family frog in the squeaky earth over here. There you go. Let's get final thoughts from the Kitsune Cavalier.
Muchas gracias, Jose. I mean, my thing is every time I hear the Fende Globe being brought up, what bugs me, other than the mispronunciation of it, isn't about the shape of the Earth, but about this idea. I watched Brian Leakey's video in which he said, wouldn't the boat go faster if it went directly downwind? And actually, that's not how sailboats work best. They are actually fastest when they're at, Mars, 130 degrees away from the wind, rather than 180. And the reason for that, as I've been taught, is that the sails actually work like an airplane wing and use lift to push the thing along, and that's how a boat can go twice, maybe America's Cup can do nearly three times the speed of the wind, faster than the speed of the wind, by using lift. Boom.
Boom. Thank you very much. Guys, We need to get Lucky Fish Mars up to 300 subscribers. He's sitting on 293. The link is in the YouTube chat box. I'm going to throw the link over here on the Discord. I'm going to refresh the page, and hopefully when we get to Lucky Fish Mars, now in the final thoughts, he is in 300. So please support. He got some cool videos over there, short, sweet, and precise. He actually does a good work on graphics and all that stuff. Support Lucky Fish Mars by subscribing. Let's continue the final thoughts. We got now Steve Rodino, final thoughts. 56, you're up. 56, final. It's boom time, and the frogs will be angry if you don't give us.
Try lemon.
You muted, Lemon. All right, we'll go back. We'll go back at you when you're ready. Holler. Mojok Man, what you got?
Nothing. Good show. Had a good time.
Good. Thank you. We got 5 more subscribers to Lucky. Mars Mushrooms, final thoughts. Nothing. Lemon, refresh the phone and come back for your final thoughts. Lucky Fish Mars, damn 5 subscribers. We're gonna get it before the show is over. Final thoughts, man.
Thanks much for the bump. And the only thing I have to say is I'm still waiting for a single flat earther to prove that sextants actually work on flat Earth and have the geometry match.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. 3 subscribers away for the 300 on Lucky Fish Mars. Please, come on. It's a bunch of people here. Support content creators. And he actually did good graphs. I wish I had the skills he does. It'd be a fucking awesome show. J Mac, final thoughts.
For the show, Jose, still no evidence for flat Earth, but they also don't understand the heliocentric model either, so I'm not surprised. But thanks. I'm going to go subscribe to Loki Fish.
Yeah. You got the link over here on the Daily Boom Uncensored. We are, I think, 2 subscribers away for 300. Grubus, final thoughts. There you go.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, good show, Jose. Yeah, catch you next time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, man. Fred, the ever more magnificent. How about Farmer's Boy?
Well, it started well, then Lemon came in, and then we had 2 hours of complete shite. So, yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Komar, final thoughts. Chike.
Yeah, well, no wonder Lemon can't make a map because he can't decide where east and west is. It's changing every single day. Good show. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lemon Bird, are you back for final thoughts?
Yes, sir. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
This freaking phone keeps on freezing.
You're up.
But this can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello? Okay, I think it was roboting a little bit, but with this southeast rising, southwest rising sun, I just think of that Spanish guy with the video with the hemispheric glass dome, with the stars that appear to be warping and going reverse with some sort of reversive refraction effect or whatever the technical definition of that is. So I would go with that over a flat plane with the sun actually with its actual geometric position, circling toward the inner portion of the flat Earth dinner plate, gentlemen and ladies, and taking on a warped, distorted opposite position based off of atmospherics, glass, refraction, or something like that.
Sorry, Jose. I just wanted to say thank you, Lemonbird, for saying ladies. I appreciate being included.
Yeah. And I apologize earlier. I go like, hey, you want to say something? Go ahead, man. It's like, it's just instinct, but you're good. All right. Yeah, Lemonbird is a diva. I appreciate Lemonbird.
Thank you.
Mojok Man. Yeah, Mojok Man, final thoughts.
I told you, I got nothing for you. Oh, now you got
All
sound.
right. ¿Verdad? Yeah, right. We're going up. We're going up. We are in Farmer's Boy, Comar, Shaik. Shaik gave it to us. C4, you got some final thoughts for us? Let's go with bro name. No name. You might be listening in the background lurking. Give us some final thoughts. A message for the audience. I guess not. Brian Leakey.
Yeah, man. They asked for a model. I gave them a model. And it's funny how when we talk about the shape of the ground, they go straight to the sky. Yeah, sure, you have a great model, but show me the curvature. It's nowhere to be found. Thank you, Jose.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Al K.
Hello.
Hello.
I don't know. I mean, from what I caught, seems to be a couple hours of Lemon doing his usual self-indulgent ad hoc woo that goes nowhere, just a bunch of rhetorical nonsense. And when it gets too much of a struggle for him and gets into the detail, it's, well, we could just explore it and we'll need to look into that. Lemon always needs to look into stuff, never produces anything. And he needs to stop telling other people to do the work that he should really be doing if he wants to stick by any of this stuff. And Brian seems to be stuck in like the original themes. I don't know where he's been the last 6 or 7 years. But I mean, you could at least catch up a bit on some of his material. The whole you can't look at the sky to determine the shape of the ground thing, just not only is it a stupid catchphrase more than anything, it's blatantly false and shows a really, really terrible misunderstanding of how geometry works. Cheers. I'll catch you later.
Cheers. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And Brian Mavitt, can you give us some final thoughts? He's been sitting here playing his game in the background. Tell us what you got, man. I know you've been enjoying the show listening. Well, if not, let's see what the frog's gotta say. Mama Frog and Baby Frog. Let's see what you got. What you got for us right here? Okay. She's coming out. Nice. Mobbit. Okay, thank you. What do you have to say, Baby Frog? Mobbit. Okay, thank you. That's cool. This is not testicles. This is the dingling legs of the frog. So please, don't have a dirty mind. And we got Papa Frog with the lazy eye. You know what? I got this guy not because he was cheap, but because he had a lazy eye. I didn't know he had a Mrs. Frog with a baby frog. So this is a frog with a lazy eye. Shout out to you, man. Kind of, you need a shower. My giving that. So shout out to Frog family. They are all together now, hanging out together. Thank you for the super chats because I might find the whole family. I know it's a big family, but for right now, we got we got Mama Frog, Papa Frog, and Baby Frog in here, and that's what matters. Family back together. Shout out to all of them. Shout out to Squeaky Earth. Here we go. Headphones warning. So you know, it still squeaks. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate your support. Hit me up on PayPal when the show is offline, and the super chat is live when the show is live. Jose JG out. Boom. I'm gonna go to my other account and ask you a very pertinent question about the flat Earth. So give me 5 seconds. Let's do it.
4, 3, 2, 1.
I got a question for you guys. Here I am. Flip Flop in the house. Is there any valid arguments for the flat Earth? Thank you very much. I guess not. Boom.